subtract an hour for daylight savings. You just need to do that. Otherwise, because the stars don't turn their clocks back. You know? They just keep going, you know? And so we turn our clocks to get more light, but stars just keep going on their courses, doing their thing, you know? So if you're born in daylight savings, you always have to remember to subtract an hour during chart calculation. And we're not actually going to learn chart calculation in this class, even though I do have a class where I can break it down. It's like a whole other class. This is more about interpretation. So nowadays, that astrology is having a renaissance because we have the ability to get charts quick and easy right off the web. Before, you know, it wasn't that accessible. You had to go to an astrologer, and an astrologer had to have a whole library and all these books and tables, and you know, had to be mathematically competent, and you know, all this stuff. So now all that stuff has like been disappeared. The hard part of astrology has disappeared. So now it's accessible to the masses, and now it's just. It used to be you'd spend most of your time learning astrology, learning just how to calculate a chart, and the interpretation was like this second-hand thing. Now it's like primary, and chart interpretation has been pushed to the side. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, I was telling Dina, I took this celestial navigation course, and it was like looking at all these tables of where everything was in the sky, and that's what really threw me off of like not wanting to learn how to read charts, because I was like, I don't want to have to look through all these tables. Just like the numbers are just.
You don't have to. Programs like the one you just saw. That's a $3 program. It's the best program out there. Solar Fire. There's a couple other good ones, Kepler and Matrix Software has one called WinStar, but that Solar Fire is the best. It does the most and an easy user interface. But anyway, we're going to learn about these planets today. The last time we learned about the houses, and I've never started a class where I taught the houses first. But I figure if we start it first, you'll get them in your consciousness more. So there's that one sheet, you know, that has the planets and signs and the houses on it. You might want to get that one after this class because it's a good sheet. It's astrology symbols or whatnot. And also there's a sheet in your packet called qualities and in there somewhere. So you might want that one out too for this class. That one. This sheet here. It has the planets and the signs and the houses. So that way, you know, you can just mix right there. But these houses are good to learn. So keep studying those. That's what we focused on last time. Just the meanings of the basic parts. Today we're going to see some planets in charts and go, hey, there's planets occupying houses. Your chart's like sort of like got all these rooms in it. And planets are like, remember, verbs. They're like actions. So if you got a lot of planets in one house, there's like that room in your being there's a lot of action going on in there, you know. It doesn't mean that the houses that don't have any action aren't important, because, you know, number one question I hear from non-astrologers is, oh no, my 7th house is empty. Does that mean I'm not going to have any relationships? I'm like, no. There's a sign over there, and that sign has a style of expression, and that sign has a planet that governs it. So that planet that governs the sign in your 7th house of relationships, or any house, is the planet that tells you about that house and tells you how you work in that realm, you know. So if there are planets there, they sort of modify things, you know. If you have, say, Gemini in the 7th house, then you're going to need more intellectual stimulation in relationships to feel like you're in love with someone. You know, you're more of a mental lover. Whereas if Cancer's there, you're going to be like, let me bake you dinner, let me nourish you, let me nurture you. You know, because it's funny, you'll see these Capricorn rising people that are like real hard exterior, you know, and just real, you know, Abraham Lincoln, long face, and they're real wise old man is what they look like. But as soon as you get in a relationship with them and you're a friend with them, you're a 7th house, you know, person, you go to their house and they're like, let me make you dinner, you know, and they shift right into their 7th house, and we all do that. We, on the outside, we look like our ascendant, but when we get one-on-one with someone and we get more intimate, even if it's just a friendship, we become our descendants. So it's our style of intimacy. Is that planet? So if there's a planet over there like Uranus, the planet of weirdos, freaks, and inventors, right? You're going to be like, you're going to be attracted to the unusual people. People like astro people, you know. You're like, oh, this is a cool town. I'm settling down here. Look at all these people, you know. So, or Boulder, or all these cool towns, you know. So I'm from these places. So I don't look the part because I'm the athlete look, because I have Sag rising. When you get on the inside, you see all the weirdness because all the Aquarius is in there, you know. So everybody's different. So yeah, last time we studied the houses, so we're just going to keep studying the houses as we go. You know, like today, if we talk about a planet, like if we're talking about, you know, Jupiter, then you just look and find Jupiter, you know, and say, okay, it's in her 7th house. So that could show that you have, Jupiter is a verb. It's an action, a planet. It's emitting a charge, a vibration in your house of love. You need Jupiter, which means it could translate in many different ways. Jupiter is a planet of inspiration, travel, exploration. Some people marry foreigners because Jupiter's in the 7th house. They're just attracted to someone that's outlandish, far away. Or you just need a lot of culture, because Jupiter's there and inspiring things in the 7th house of love. And wherever Jupiter is, it emits a lucky vibration too. It says, okay, you can have a lot of this, and sometimes too much, because Jupiter's about overindulgence and and expansion and growth. And
you went on a date last week.
I had a lot.
Jupiter in the 7th house means you don't have a problem
but
finding
I can't
people.
find a good one. I need the good one. That's the problem.
That's the whole other problem. So we'll look at that. But anyway, so last week was the houses. Keep studying the houses. The houses, the fields of life experience. We're going to start looking at how they interpret them. If you don't know the houses, you don't know how to give it into meaning to the person of how is this planet in this sign working in your life? The houses is the in your life part, So how is this manifesting in the fields of life experience? So we'll focus on that. But today we're going to talk about planets and learn about all their different meanings and everything. And there's a sheet in your packet that has a big diagram. It's like a funky diagram. It's called qualities. It says qualities and modes on it.
This one?
Yeah, that one. See that one?
Oh.
Yeah, that strange looking piece of creation.
Yeah.
So that one's a really important diagram. And Christina, you can give yours to her if she wants to write on it, because I can make you another one home.
Okay, there you go.
Don't forget your notebook. Okay, so
We can share it. It was in my bathroom for a while. I used to look at it.
what's that? Oh.
Just said it was in the bathroom for a while. I used to look at it a lot.
Yeah, we used to hang it right by
It's sort of ingrained in my brain.
When I came down, I had just got done creating. I was like, look at this vision I created, and I said, it's amazing. You can feel every single aspect of astrology in this sheet. She's like, I'm hanging that on the bathroom wall, right next to the toilet. Anyway, nice way to learn. But so that's important for today, because those show the sort of relationships of the planets and the qualities, the alchemical qualities. When I talk about alchemy, you ever heard of hot, wet, cold, dry? In alchemy, it's all about that, and that's what that translates into astrology really well. You can really learn about the planets. For instance, we just got to talk about Jupiter, right? Jupiter is hot and moist because Jupiter's up in this sector. See, and so Jupiter, of course, it's the planet of inspiration. It always uplifts when it comes by in a chart. Why? Because it's hot. It energizes. It uplifts. Why is it going to make connections? Why is it the planet of opportunity? Because it's about connection. Moist is connection, like making a cake, You need to have wetness to make the ingredients mix. So we're going to look at that later. But first of all, we're just going to do a little review here of these symbols. Every symbol has either a circle, or part of a circle, or a cross, or a dot. And the circle symbolizes spirit, just to review from last time. This is piece of spirit, consciousness. Yeah. Mind, or consciousness. And of course, matter, or the four elements, coming into being. And then the dot is sort of an orientation, symbolizes a being, a point of being. That's why the sun sign has that powerful symbol, It's the circle of spirit, but then there's a point of being in it. So it's you manifested from the great realm of spirit coming in, And then when you look at polarities, like we said, Mars used to be that symbol, but it changed to that over time. So you can see Mars is matter over spirit. Venus is spirit over matter. Remember that book, Women Are From Venus, Men Are From Mars? It's interesting because every man has an inner Venus that if he gets in touch with, there'll be a stronger wholeness within him. And every woman has an inner Mars that if she gets in touch with and has, I call them, like the artist way, the artist date. Have a date with your inner Mars. Go to the movie and say, I'm not by myself, I'm with my inner Mars. Because you need to make this guy happy if you're a woman, because otherwise he'll sabotage things. And so, yeah.
What I feel like is interesting about that is because what I've been learning is women are more associated with yin and matter, or feminine energy, and then it's Venus exalts the male and Mars exalts the female. At least that's what I'm reading it as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're polarity of each other. So they flow together.
Even though, like, you would think that the male symbol would be spirit or matter as far as patriarchy.
Yeah, as far exactly. You know, and they tried to do that, you know, with the cross. They moved it up a little bit, but you know, it's an interesting thing, you know, because Mars is more about desire and like the lusty sense, you know, animalistic, whereas Venus, they call Venus the lady of the plants. She's the plant lady. She governs all the flora, where Mars governs the fauna, the animals, the people running around, muscular energy moving in nature, whereas Venus is plant energy moving in nature. You know, Saturn was called Rock Lord, governs lead, you know, hard things, structure, bones. You know, so each one of these planets has a alchemical relationship. You know, Sun, gold, Moon, silver. Mercury was tin, Saturn was lead, and then there was copper. I think one of these is copper. And then there's, what's that?
Jupiter.
Yeah, Jupiter. Yeah, Jupiter's copper, and then Venus was one other one. Drawn blank. But anyway, there's alchemical qualities related to. Obviously, there's hundreds of elements on the elemental table, so those are more symbolic, spiritual. Just like fire, earth, air, water, the four elements are they're not elements in the sense of like, you know, carbon or magnesium. They're elements in the sense of like spiritual, alchemical, all archetypal elements. Somebody got a lot of fire, you can feel it, you know. And so, anyway, and the moon, the cool simple thing about the moon is like the moon is like a circle divided in half. So you got two parts, and then one's turned in on itself. So it's like spirit listening to its own inward being. And you have Mercury. It's fascinating because Mercury and Pluto look similar, you know. So it's Pluto, the line, this has come down, you know, the arc has come down. So with Pluto, with Mercury, it's, you know, it's like the thinking cap. It's like Venus with a thinking cap. That's what my teacher used to say when I was 14. It's me, don't forget your thinking cap on Mercury. And so, you know, it's like a little receptor dish. You know, communication planet. The mind. So, you know, Uranus has two of them, you know. Uranus is surround sound, intuition, you know. It's like zing. Neptune, we didn't look at last week. Neptune it's the only planet with the cross of matter goes into the realm of mind. It's the planet of dreams, and it's the planet where matter goes into the realm of mind, you know. So it's kind of cool, Neptune, because Neptune's all about the astro realm, the land of the Fae, the land of the Tir na Nog, as they call it in Celtic lore, land of the young, you know. It's like this eternal love place. Vibration of unity consciousness. So Neptune's coming up strong in 2012 because Neptune and Chiron are conjoining leading up to 2012, which is the spiritual healing vibration on the planet, which we need big time. So and it's going from Aquarius to Pisces, you know, which is the age we're in, the Pisces-Aquarius mix. So that's pretty cool that those guys are aligning. But yeah, you know, you can see, you know, Jupiter is consciousness over matter. You can do anything, confidence. Whereas Saturn's like, no, you got to get organized first. You got to pay the bills. Saturn's like, deal with reality. You know, it's sort of like a reaper symbol. It's back before Saturn came along. You know, it was the planet of death and rebirth. It was the end of the solar system. You know, Pluto inherited a lot of Saturn's sort of reaper side. You know, the death. You know, Saturn would be about hardship. There's a dark side to every planet, and every planet has a shadow side. Saturn gets the bad rap, but, you know, it's not a bad planet. We wouldn't have organizations without Saturn. We wouldn't have businesses. We wouldn't have bones under our skin. So you can't really say Saturn's bad and Jupiter's good. Jupiter can be overindulgence. Jupiter can be religious zealousness, which makes you all crazy and want to blow up abortion clinics or whatever, you know. Islamic guys trying to blow up people in the bus. It's like Jupiter, that's the negative side of Jupiter. Too much light will blind you, you know. Oh. Come on in, baby. Come on in. Let me just get over here, okay? Oh, perfect. So we're talking about planets. The basic understanding is that the symbols are really interesting. Stephen Forrest always says, trust the symbols, because if you ever, you know, get lost in the middle of reading, just go back to the basic symbol, you know. And circle is spirit, consciousness, mind, and then matter. And then the dot is the orientation of V, which is the sun, which is circle of spirit. Orienting is you, you know, the sun sign. So yeah, you can see the opposite principles here. Jupiter is mind over matter. It's a very confident, radiant planet. It can be overconfident with rose-colored glasses. And so where Jupiter is in your chart, it shows where you want to grow. It's bigness, you know. Where Saturn is, it's the planet of structure, and shows where the karma is. The karmic residue, I say, on the bathtub of your soul. So it's a planet that symbolizes contraction. And you can actually look at these planets in the sky and see that they reflect what we have always felt about them in their physical forms. I think that we have actually shaped them just as they have shaped us through thousands of years. Because when you look at Venus, you know, in the sky, it's just beautiful. It's just this jewel, and it's the goddess of love. You know, Mars is this red war planet. You know, it's just, you can see it's dry. It's like it just looks like what it means. You know, Jupiter is supposed to symbolize expansion, and it's 350 times the size of the Earth. It's like this huge gas giant. You know, Saturn is supposed to symbolize limitations and staying within the boundaries, the rings, and it has these huge rings. You know. Uranus is the only planet that goes around. It's the planet of like inventors, freaks, and weirdos, right? Taking the road less traveled. And it's the only planet that has its north pole facing the sun. It has a little ring, so it actually goes on its side around the solar system. So it's the planet of being different and original. So when someone has that planet, like say, conjunct their sun, you know that their basic core identity, the sun, is going to be highly original. Their life purpose is going to be bizarre, you know, because that planet's saying, you know, you walk to the sound of a different drummer. You're the only planet that rolls around the sun. And then Neptune, of course, was always the planet of dreams, god of the sea. When the Voyager finally went by Neptune, we got to see pictures of Neptune. It's this giant ocean planet. Just pure blue ocean planet. And it's just like, wow. And then, of course, Pluto, the realm of the dead, out here at the end of the solar system here. Well, actually, we found out that there's a whole other Oort cloud out here of objects that come down. You know, comets come out of it. But and there's finding other crazy things, dwarf planets like Eris, which is like, I always said they were going to find something out there, and we're going to call it Persephone. And they really wanted to name her Persephone, Queen of the Underworld, but that name had already been given to like something, and so they just said, we're going to call it Eris, which is interesting because whenever a new planet is discovered, like Eris was discovered a couple years back, it symbolizes what's going on in the world. And Eris symbolizes discord. She was the goddess that wasn't invited to the party, so she created this apple and threw it into the party, and everybody fought about it. It was crazy. Created a lot of discord. So yeah, so Pluto, Lord of the Underworld, you know, he's out there by deep space, you know, trekking around. And the way I see it is that the further you go out into the solar system, the further you're going in level of consciousness. See, this is the personal sphere right here to Mars. These are the personal planets. These are the collective social planets: Jupiter, religion, Saturn, structure, you know. And then you get out here, and it's the transcendent planet, the transpersonal, you know. And so then there's a vibration coming from the galaxy. People that tune into that are the mystics, you know. So there's a galactic vibe. These guys are here. Uranus symbolizes divine mind. Neptune, divine heart, divine love. Pluto, divine will. They have sort of like Mercury is mind, Uranus is divine mind. Venus is love, Neptune is divine love. Both these have to do with art too. Venus is artistic expression. Neptune is like divine, rapturous, artistic expression, you know. And so it's really cool too, because when you look at the eccentricity of these planets, which is like how tilted it is, or how oblong the orbit is, whether it's a real big ellipse or whether it's a perfect circle, I think Venus is like 0.006 or something like that. You know, the closer you get to 1, the way out it gets crazy, you know. So the closer you get to 0 is like perfect circle. So Venus is almost a perfect circle. So it's like balance, harmony, beauty. Even in its orbit, it shows us that relationship, you know. And you'd think, you know, a lot of these planets out here have these weird orbits. Like Pluto has this weird orbit where it comes way down and goes way out. It has like a 17-degree tilt to the plane of the solar plane. And so it even comes down into Neptune's orbit for a while. From 1977 to 2000, Pluto was down into Neptune's orbit. So Neptune was the farthest planet for like 30 years. And so it was really weird. But, you know, you'd think that Neptune, too, being way out there and crazy like that, would also have a strange orbit like that. Neptune has an eccentricity of 0.00, I think it's 6, just like Venus. Or maybe Venus is like 4, and that's like 6. So in other words, Neptune, way far out there, almost has a perfect circle around the sun, just like Venus. So you can see their relationship artistically, just that beauty, that harmony coming in. And then, of course, Chiron has a really strange orbit. It has this really oblong orbit. When it gets in close to the sun, it gets in close to Saturn. It takes 2.5 years to go through a sign, just like Saturn. When it gets further out, it's almost like a comet. They didn't even know what Chiron was when they found it in 1977. Like, is it a comet? Is it a planetoid? Now we're just calling it a dwarf planet, like Sirius and Pluto. But it takes 7 years when it gets through these signs over here. So it kind of is a bridge in consciousness, between the old guard and the new modern influences, They didn't have skyscrapers and airplanes in the old world. We needed a planet to symbolize that stuff. There's Uranus, planet of radar, computers, technology, the internet. Actually, the internet's a combo of Neptune and Uranus. So when these two guys aligned in 1990, it brought in this new technology with visions, Neptune. So you can see those cycles through history. Every 172 years, these guys meet in the sky, and then bam, there's these great revelations or spiritual revelations or inventions, breakthroughs. And then, of course, the nodes. The nodes are interesting. Look at their symbols. It's like 2 parts of spirit and then consciousness, which is interesting, the south node, because this is the karmic past, This is like, wherever the south node, imagine it's like a little cauldron, like a witch's bowl. And it's got all this liquid in there of cellular memory. And it's like the south node in your chart by its sign in its house shows the common denominator of all the past lives, or at least for at least 7 generations, they say, coming into your being, It's like, whoa. I always think that when we die, all of our different parts, our Venuses and our Marses and our Mercuries and all of our faculties, just get recycled into the great cosmic soup. And when the divine being or whatnot says, all right, I need another person, it'll take like Kelly's Mercury and Christina's Venus and, Hitler's Pluto and Einstein's Jupiter and mix it all together and say, oh, let's see what's going to happen next, But then it throws in a scoop of like ancestral karma here, And the moon also reflects the past. So the moon is always reflective of the past, because it's like your mom, your roots, your foundations. And the north node.
Are you going to talk about what the nodes are?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're getting to all that.
Okay.
But the north node here is opposite. North node are the symbolic of. Well, we can just do it right now, real quick, because here's the Earth, right, and here's the sun going by, and the sun goes around, right. Well, the moon's path isn't on the same ecliptic. Like if you imagine, they're about 5 degrees off from each other. So there's these points, where the moon's path, the moon goes up above the sun, and then it goes back down below. If you look at this graphically, like if you're looking at it from the side down below here, the moon's going down below the chalkboard, and then up above the chalkboard. See what I'm saying? So these points where the moon and sun meet are called the nodes. Where the moon goes up above, right here, that's the north node. Where the moon goes down below into the depths, that's the south node. And that's what the nodes are. And I always say, since the moon symbolizes soul, and the sun symbolizes life purpose, this is the combination of their path. It's the arrow of your life's purpose, your soul's purpose, really. So you always want to be remembered for your north node over a lifetime. You want to use the gifts of your south node to give to others, and then train it to move it toward this. So you can get beyond your addictions and move towards your north node. The south node is very tricky territory. It's like a black hole. It'll suck you in. So it's like you got to watch that and make sure you're using that gift, especially to help others, but you're also using it to move towards your north node, which is remember I gave the example of Einstein and Aquarius, or Einstein and Elvis. Elvis, they both had the Leo south node. They were both performers. Elvis stayed in his south node. He became Leo. He became the king. But Leo governs the heart. He died of a heart attack from drug overdose, addictions. So he just he did some humanitarian things. He did some Aquarian shocking things, but he wasn't personally fulfilled. You could tell by the way it happened. Einstein was a performer. He played the violin. He was very creative. He even said imagination is more important than knowledge. And here he is evolving. People remember him for being the humanitarian, the Aquarian, the scientist, the sage, the one who's bringing enlightenment to the world. So you can really see how he lived his north node. And he didn't die of a heart attack, drug overdose. He just died from old age. So, and he was remembered for his north node. So that's an example of what the nodes are physically.
So if the north node is your soul purpose, how would you describe the south node?
Well, I would say the whole axis is your soul's purpose. Your whole soul's purpose is to take the gifts of the south node, channel it into the north node, bring a balance, but mainly moving toward that north node.
And those are the paths if you're on the earth looking out. That's the sun.
Yeah. If you're on the earth,
path.
yeah, if you're standing on the earth, looking out at the sun, in the moon's path, imagine the sun's on the chalkboard plane. The moon would be going into the chalkboard, like deeper into the wall, and then coming out. So it's like above, below. There's actually these points where it gets halfway that the ancients called the bendings. These are called the bendings of the nodes, the nodal cycle, the bendings of the moon. When the moon gets here, because it's at those points that the moon is either furthest or farthest away from the earth. So called, I think, apogee or perigee. So anyway, that's the node. Christine, you want to bring up the qualities sheet?
Sure.
Did we bring the folders so we can give Mimi one? We didn't bring them, did we? Oh yeah, they're in that box. Okay, Mimi, I'll get you your folder next time.
Okay.
Till then, share up. Your friend there.
This is the. Oh, I have some.
Okay, so this sheet here has everything. If you know how to feel it. Yeah. But the first thing I want to point out is that cold, moist, hot, and dry. These are the symbols of alchemy. You got two axes. You got dry and wet, or dry and moist, they call it. And when the Greeks went out, they said, "Hey, it's hot and dry today." So they just noticed. You just come. It's very. I always say the Greeks were very Taoist. They went outside like, "Check it out. It's hot and wet." They just took nature at what it was given them. Oh, it's cold. It's cold and wet today. So it's very just a direct experience of nature. This is where the root of astrology. These things are the root of astrology right here. So imagine cold being like winter. You know what I mean? If these are the 4 seasons. Imagine moist being like spring, right? Spring energy. Imagine hot being summer. And imagine dry being fall. And then you get dry. So autumn. So you have these. And then imagine this is the life cycle. When you're cold, cold is like a baby. You don't move around too much. You're just sitting there. So don't think of cold and hot as temperature at all. Think of them as states of energy, where cold is maximum relaxation, and hot is maximum energetic jamming. So in the life cycle, that would be like a baby just sitting there. This would be like young adulthood, or your teen years. You're wet. You're ready to go. You're ripe. You're ready to grow something. You're spring. You're springing up. Summer, hot. This is like midlife. You're 40. You've made all your mistakes. You know what you're about. They say life begins at 40. Why? Because you got your power. You're hot. You're ready to go. And then, of course, old age would be the cycle of the elder. Would be the dry. And Robert Ham, when he gives a lecture on the ancient qualities, because he has proven that the qualities came before the elements: fire, earth, air, water. Okay? Because it was the combination of the dry and hot that the Greeks made up the elemental quality of fire. It was the combination of hot and moist that made air, cold and wet making water, cold and dry earth. These elements came later in the development of this system. So it's really cool to see that this is the core. Just basic realizations of what nature's doing. And so, and when he gives this lecture, he says, and then you're dead, and that's about as cold and dry as you get. So, take it from the scholar. Anyway, I made some adjustments to this one.
Oh,
this is the old one.
I opened that.
Yeah. We should have a different way. Let me go ahead. I might not have it on here. Qualities. Might be on here. I hope it's on here.
Do you want me to pass out that color?
Yeah. Pass that out. Because that has the updated. And your sheets have the updated too. Just hit quit. Or just hit quit right here.
Oops.
Quit. Okay. So.
What do you want me to do?
Just turn it up.
Do you want that other one up?
No. Just give me a solar system.
Okay.
Solar system's fun. Okay, so we got our own little circle here. Okay, so your sheets are reflecting the new version. Okay, so in the middle you have Mercury, and this is where the reason I'm showing you this stuff because you're going to be able to understand the planets more by understanding these qualities: hot, wet, cold, and dry, than reading any textbook on astrology and finding out that Jupiter's about inspiration. Anyway, okay. If you think of cold. This is cold down here. This is wet or moist. This is hot. This is dry over here. Okay, so if you think of cold, think of relaxes. That's the key word. It lowers the energy. Hot, it raises the energy, so it energizes. Right? So hot energizes, cold lowers energy, relaxes. Wet, what's wet do? It makes connections. So it connects. It brings things together. Like I said with the example of making a cake. You got to throw some water in to get everything start mixing. And then dry breaks connections. Or spoken more diplomatically, separates. So this one here forms boundaries. This one here loosens the boundaries. It unifies. Right? This one down here lowers the energy, relaxes. It's a resting state. This is the active state. So it's just like life, when you do an activity. It's a daily cycle. This would be new. This would be a midnight rave. This would be morning, when things are waking up. The hot would be high noon, when everybody's moving around doing stuff. This is when the sun's going down. This is like sunset. So there's many ways to think of this cycle. You can probably apply it to 100 different things. But the key is just to understand that cold brings the energy down, hot brings the energy up. Wet brings things together. Dry separates things and breaks things apart. Like when you look at the desert, the dryness on the floor, it's like you see it's physically starting to separate, forming these little crests and these little valleys. So these are principles of nature. These are very Taoist. So when you put the planets in, let's put Mercury in. Mercury is in the middle. The ancient Greeks put the Mercury in the middle because Mercury is the messenger, and if the messenger has a charge, he can't be a good messenger. So he's neutral. The Mercury just says, I can't have a charge, but you can get a letter of unity. Hey, let's be boyfriend girlfriend. You could get a letter of separation. Dear John letter, we're separating. You could get a Mercury message of energization, come to the sporting event, whatever. Or you can get a very restful, relaxing, make a cup of tea, sit by the fire letter, right? So Mercury can do all four. Mercury's mutable, in essence.
It's the only metal that's liquid.
Tin?
Mercury.
Oh, okay. Is that Mercury. Yeah, that's Mercury. Yeah, Mercury is the Mercury. I was saying, that's the one we were missing from the chart before. Right. Mercury is actually Mercury.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mercury is, the only one that can be the liquid. Yeah, so it's very mutable, it's very fluid. Check it out. The sun is up here. Why? Because the sun likes to raise the energy, heat things up, but it also likes to dry things out. The sun is a little more hot than it is dry. It energizes more than it separates in astrology. But it can definitely separate. Think of someone being too egotistical. Everybody's like, oh God, you're shining too bright. Turn that thing down, right? Mars, of course, is right here. Mars is very dry, more so than it is hot. Mars does energize, but it's drier than it is hot. Oh, did you hand out those sheets?
The rainbows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have one?
It's right there.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Isn't this a beautiful sheet?
It is.
My friend, my fellow artist, is Vanessa Keys, and she created this for me after watching a video about this that's on YouTube. So if you want to watch more deeper, I have a whole 2-hour video I do, me and another astrologer named Gary Caton, break it down, all these qualities. So you can go and watch that just for further, to reinforce this lesson, because it'll go into some things, you know, that are even more. So hopefully I'll go into them all here. But this sheet will give you the whole breakdown, you know. I mean, look at that, all those different things, you know. It's like you get more keywords, you know. Hot, increases energy, motion, accelerates, generates, energizing, exciting, warming, brightening, impassioning, inspiring, uplifting. It's enthusiastic, it's actualized, it's enlightened, it's illuminated, it's awakened. That's a lot of keywords for hot, you know. If you don't get it by then, you don't know English. You know. How many more words do we need to describe? Wow, things are happening. All right, so anyway, energizes. And then, okay, Sun, Mars. So that's cool. You know, Mars is a little drier than it is hot. I mean, if you look at Mars is a dry planet. Just physically. Look at it. It's like a desert. And Mars tends to break connections more than anything. It's the god of war. Mars is the anger planet. It can be very impulsive. But, you know, it's on this side of the diagram. And then let's go to Mars's polarity. It's kind of interesting. Venus, to the Greeks, they had to put Venus right here. The reason why is because Venus has two sides. Venus can uplift in one side of Venus, where she can be really like, hey, I'm at the party, you know. And, you know, she can be very social. And so she's always connective, you know. It's the planet of relationships. So Venus is always wet, you know. But, I mean, she's the lady of plants, right? You got to have some wetness to grow some plants. And then, of course, but Venus can also be cold. Like, you know, Venus in her Tauruses. So you can be very relaxed and mellow and back rubs and massages and going to see Christina at the spa, you know? So, and I think it's interesting in relationships because when Mars, the man, meets the woman and the woman's at the party, up here being Venus in the more hot sense, they're like, yeah, you're hot, let's get together. But then when I put the moon in here, see, the moon's right here. When women become mothers, you know, they sort of sink down to this moon level, you know, which makes them more watery, you know, and then it opposes the Mars. So that's when the tension comes in the marriage, but a relationship, you know, because the Mars is like, hey, what happened? you became something totally different than I met at the party. It's because, you know, Venus became, you know, the moon. There's a relationship between Venus and moon. I think every woman has, just like every man has two sides, Sun and Mars, but the thing is, they're both hot and dry. See, the two sides of a woman, one is cold and wet, but one is wet and can be hot or cold. See, so there's two different aspects of feminine, and it's not like men don't have two aspects. We do. Our Sun is that light, that ego, that purpose, but then the Mars is the masculine essence. Every man defines his masculinity by his Mars. Every woman describes her femininity by her Venus. How you are a woman. A woman that has Venus in Aries is going to be more, you know, tomboyish, you know, Venus in Aries. I had a lot of lesbian friends in Key West that had Venus in Aries or Venus in Capricorn. Because they were like, I'm in charge up in here. You know, they were just like, they felt more masculine in the expression of their feminine essence. And then I had a lot of friends that were gay that had Mars in Cancer or Mars in Libra. Well, actually, the Libra were usually bisexual. They couldn't make up their mind. They're like, which way? But the Mars in Cancer, they're like the most sensitive guys on the planet. Doesn't mean they have to be gay. Usually they have to have an aspect to Uranus to be kind of bizarre and unconventional in some way. You know. But if you meet a guy that has Mars in your Cancer with a square to Uranus, you know he's got something unusual going on in the sexual dimension, and he's feeling very motherly inside. He's feeling feminine, you know. So you just feel that. But anyway, the moon's here. Why? Because the moon relaxes things. The moon's like when you come home and you want to just watch TV and make some popcorn. It's like relax time, you know. It's like rest time, going into night. Heck, even in the Bible, it says that God put the sun, moon, and planets in the sky to illuminate the world with light, to govern the seasons and days and years, to divide the light from the darkness, and He created the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light, the moon, to govern the night. So that's why if you're born at day with the sun above the chart, then you're called a diurnal chart. Diurnal, which means just day chart. If you're born at night, with the sun down here on this part of the chart down here, that's a nocturnal chart. And that means that the moon is stronger in your nature than the sun. So if you were in ancient Greek times and you were at a party and you were born at night, like me and my moon's in Gemini, if they said, "What's your sign?" I'd be like, "I'm a Gemini." That was how they did it back then. You know, you'd go by which one if you were born day and night, and that concept is called sect. You know, whether you're born at day or night, because there's a whole sect. Like if you're born at day, sun, then Saturn and Jupiter take on more strength. That's the sect of the sun. If you're born at night, then Venus and Mars, the desire planets, the love planets come out, and they're more all about the nocturnal. And then Mercury, you know, these are the traditional 6 planets. We're missing Mercury, right? Well, Mercury, if it's behind the sun, you know, if the sun's rising, if the chart's coming, you know, if the sun sets, goes down, and Mercury's in the sky, that's nocturnal Mercury. If the sun's coming up, like on this side of the chart, and you see Mercury above the sun like that, the Mercury rose before the sun. That's called Mercury Prometheus. You know, forethought, as opposed to Mercury Epimetheus, afterthought. So you can see Mercury afterthought's nocturnal. Mercury forethought is diurnal, because it's like thinking ahead. So you don't need to know all that, but the main focus is, if you're born at night, the moon is strong. Because most people think the sun is the center of the chart. But when you're born at night, the moon takes a stronger vibration, you know. It's like your sun sign. I mean, it's not your sun sign, but it definitely takes on a power center or focal. And then, of course, Jupiter is always there. Because Jupiter is hot and wet. I mean, Jupiter governs Sagittarius and Pisces, a fire sign and a water sign. So, of course, Jupiter is hot. Jupiter uplifts. See? One of the key words for this was uplifts. You know? Because it's hot. And it's wet. It makes connections. In astrology, you might read an astrology book, and it'll say, Jupiter's the planet of opportunity. But it won't tell you why Jupiter's the planet of opportunity. You're just supposed to take it at face value. If you know this, you can see why. Jupiter raises energy and makes connections. That's what opportunity is about. So you're out there at the party, and you're making connections, you know? So you can really feel this energy. You can feel what Jupiter means. You don't got to refer to a textbook. You just know that Jupiter connects and uplifts. And that's the core principle. Everything that Jupiter's about is derived from there, you know, including travel to foreign lands, you know, cultures. So Saturn is the polarity of Jupiter. Remember, Jupiter expands, Saturn contracts. Look at them. They got this beautiful polarity going on here. Just like the sun and the moon. Venus and Mars kind of do, but kind of, you know, they kind of got their own weirdness going on. Maybe it's why relationships are kind of... But check out Saturn. Saturn is dry. Saturn likes to dry things out. Saturn is serious. No nonsense. You know, it ain't about sun. Let's play! Saturn's down here drying things out. Which brings wisdom, you know? That's the gift of this cycle. Nobody wants to get old, but look what comes with it. Wisdom. Saturn is wisdom. And this is the deepest part of yin right here. This is like maximum yang up here. So when you get to Saturn, you're getting more yin, more fabric, more structure, you know. That's why this side's about structure. So I mean, think of Mars in the military and how structured it is. All these hierarchies. Think of a business. Saturn governs business, and think how structured it is and why they keep it that way. They want it organized. And so Saturn is that symbol here. And you can see, if the moon wants to rest and unite, you feel gooey inside and relax. The moon is what you need to feel content in life. So imagine in a chart, here's the moon in a chart, right? And then transiting Saturn comes by, moving Saturn in the sky. You know? This is the Tao of astrology right here. Saturn is bringing a vibration that's dry and cold, right? To the moon, which is wet and cold. So the moon comes and sort of dry. Saturn comes, it'll stay here for a good year. During that year, you know, I mean, certain months it'll be right on it, and it'll go retrograde, and then it'll go forward, you know. So, you know, because Saturn goes through a sign every 2.5 years. So it'll go into a sign and do a retrograde. And it'll go to the end of the sign and do a retrograde. Then it'll go to the next sign. Jupiter does that once per year. You go into the sign for a year, go back, and then go forward. So every planet, you know, as you get deeper into the solar system, spends more time in the sign. You know, Jupiter 1 year. We're going to do a whole class on it, just to let you know. 2.5 for Saturn, 7, 12. Heck, Pluto's from like 12 to 20, depending on what weird part of its orbit is. Chiron is 2.5 to 7, depending on what part of its weird orbit is. Mars is 2. Sirius, the grain god, 4.6. Earth, 1. Venus, 1. Mercury, 1. These guys all stay together pretty much, you know. They're like a little entourage, you know. You got the sun. What is it? Entourage? There you go. Yeah. You got, sometimes I pronounce words like phonetically. Entourage. Entourage. You got the sun, the king, you know, the noble with his little court jester and his little Venus, lovely princess. It's like dad and his daughter and the court jester hanging around, going around the sun. They're going around the earth. Okay, so, or at least it looks like it goes around us. Remember I told you the sun doesn't even rise? That's because we're going around the sun. Sun doesn't rise, we turn. It looks like the sun rises. But anyway, so when Saturn comes across the moon, why do people get depressed during that? Why does every book say, oh God, it's going to be a really hard time emotionally right now, so really just try to focus on business things and don't make a lot of long-term decisions where emotions are involved, because you're not feeling right. Just like you're not thinking right, you're not feeling right. You're feeling depressed. Why? Because Saturn is that pressure, and it's coming across that moon, and so it's drying out the moon. And so the moon the moon can't flow without that water. Your emotions can't flow. So you really literally feel rigid. You feel frozen. Your heart feels frozen during a Saturn transit. And the key is to embrace it. Because there are certain times when the universe wants you to go inward. It doesn't want you to be all happy and superficially happy and on Prozac, you know? Usually that's why people like this go to the doctor and say, what's wrong with me? And they put them on Prozac. And they miss the opportunity of going deep within and having that deep conversation with eternal being that you can't have when you're superficially drugged up. You know? So it's very important to honor these cycles. Honor that there's a cycle of going in and having a deep conversation with the wise elder, you know? And there's a poem by David Whyte called The Well of Grief, where it says, those who will not slip beneath the still surface on the well of grief, turning down through its black water to the place we cannot breathe, will never know the source from which we drink the secret water cold and clear, nor find in the darkness glimmering the small round coins thrown by those who wished for something else. You know? So most people throw the coin in and wish for a new relationship or a new car or a new whatever. But Saturn says, do you want to wish for a deep conversation with the eternal being that's going to transform your entire life and change you? Most people are afraid of change, you know? So, and sometimes I'll use poetry like that in a little reading just to evoke these archetypes. It just helps tell the story. Because really the greatest thing an astrologer is, first and foremost, is a storyteller. A myth weaver, you know, of the myth. And we haven't even got to the signs yet. We're just talking about the houses, the planets, because we got to get the nouns, the people, places, and things, the houses. We got to get some actions. Once you got things and things to do, then you can bring in the signs, which will be the signs. Remember, the signs in relation to the houses are just like what modifies a noun. What makes a box, a brown box, or a red box, or a green box? Well, adjectives. Adjectives make nouns. So signs can be adjectives, or they can be adverbs. You know, if you got Mars in Taurus, you're going to have a slow, steady Mars. See, that's slow, steady. Those are adverbs. Words describing how a verb is working. He ran like crazy. He must have had Mars and Uranus together. You know. So anyway,
Jupiter, is that 1 year?
Yeah, Jupiter spends
1 year through a sign.
1 year through a sign. These guys are 1 year around the whole chart, but basically like 30 days per. 30 days per sign. The Moon takes 2.5 days to go through a sign, not years. Saturn years. It's interesting because the Moon and Saturn have a polarity down here at the bottom. There's all these polarities throughout here, you know. Sun, Moon, Mars and Venus have this thing going on. Even if Mars feels weird about it. Maybe Venus feels weird about it. Because Venus is like, why aren't you on your line? It's like on that movie Walk the Line. Remember when she says, Johnny, you're not walking the line. You're out here trying to be all break connections and be all drunk and stuff, you know.
Mars is 2 years in a sign?
Mars is 1.8 or about 2 years. Yeah, in a sign. Or not in a sign, sorry. That's around the chart.
Around the chart.
It's about 7 weeks in a sign. Mars is 7 weeks in a sign. Unless it goes retrograde. Then it'll spend 5 months in a sign. Like it just went retrograde in Cancer all through Christmas. It was retrograde in Cancer. It's worst sign to be in. Why? Because Mars was over here in a very wet, watery sign, you know, the moon sign. It's like the mother has her thumb on the warrior and says, "You're not going nowhere. You're cleaning your room." You know, and so Mars is like, "What am I doing in this sign?" It's the sign of its depression. So every planet has a sign it gets depressed in, and it's because its energy gets lowered. It can't function as itself. Mars' fire goes out because of all the water. So Mars has a hard time there, you know. And it also has a hard time in, say, Libra, you know, because it's opposite from its home in Aries. So Mars in Libra's like, "God, what am I doing here?" It's like a warrior with a flaming sword in the china shop. He's like, "This is not my place." You know, it's like too elegant up in here. You know? Okay, so here's some modern innovations. Okay, let's go to Chiron. Chiron's dry. Chiron's the old wise mentor. So Chiron would be there. See, the ancients didn't know about Chiron, but we do. Chiron fits the dry archetype perfectly. I mean, Chiron can be hot. Imagine a Zen master tearing it up in the dojo, you know. You know, could be hot. You know, like me right now. I'm Chiron teaching you guys this stuff, and I'm like feeling hot. You know, I'm even sweating a little bit. So Chiron can also be cold. He can rest. He can say, "Look, young warrior, you need to relax. you need to go inward. You need to meditate." Chiron's like the meditation teacher in that sense, you know. And so, but Chiron's all about boundaries and saying, "Look, if you're gonna evolve as a heroic being, you need to get discipline in your life. You need to bring some dryness in. It's not just all fun and games. It's like there's some hard work to do. Training time." So Chiron perfectly balances Venus right there. Now Uranus is cool. Uranus would be like right here. Because Uranus and Mars are very similar. They both like to raise the energy. They both like to break connections. Uranus does it from a transcendental place, you know. Because Uranus is one of these outer planets, you know, divine mind. Uranus is like when you get a flash of intuition, you just know what you know, and you don't know how you know, but you just know it. It's like that's Uranus. So Uranus is intuition. But Uranus is like Mars. And you notice this is the fire sector over here. So a lot of people think, "Oh, Uranus governs Aquarius." I don't really give these planets governorship because the old system is alive and kicking. If someone has Scorpio rising, Mars is going to tell you more about them than Pluto. So don't listen to the modern textbooks that say Pluto rules Scorpio. It's like kicking out 10,000 years of ancients observing the heavens and understanding these energies. Because when I see people with Scorpio rising that say have Mars and Leo, they look real sunny. They don't look like deep, dark, and mysterious. You know, it's like, whoa, what happened? Their Mars is in Leo. So the modifier to the ascendant is in a different sign. You can have 12 different kinds of Scorpio risings, depending on where Mars is. If you just go with Pluto, Pluto's going to be in one spot for 12 to 20 years. That means that everybody for 12 to 20 years born is going to look the same and act the same. It's like, it doesn't work like that. Mars will modify any Scorpio ascendant. Just like Neptune doesn't govern Pisces, Jupiter does. You know? And same with Saturn. Saturn governs Aquarius and Leo. If you want to see that diagram drawn out, what happened was, you know, the ancients, they saw, you know, here's Aries and Taurus and Gemini and Cancer and Leo and Virgo and Libra, Scorpio and Sag and Capricorn and Aquarius and Pisces. And they said, okay, the sun and the moon are the great lights, and the greatest 2 months that has the most light on the planet are Leo and Cancer, at least in the northern hemisphere. But, you know, the sun, the royalty, the gold is just matched with Leo, you know, the sign of the king. And the moon matched with the mother, the crab, the whole thing. Actually, the ancient symbol for Cancer wasn't the crab, it was the turtle. And even before that, it was the great watery mother, just the total archetype of the goddess. So, and it got crabby in us. And then, so they looked at this. I know.
The goddess took
It was back in the age of Taurus when the moon was worshipped all through, you know, in Turkey where they have the Taurus Mountains and they always have these fertile crescents. The crescent was the symbol. That's because the moon is exalted in Taurus. Every sign has a planet. Every planet has a sign where it loves to be too. Where it's just like, I'm exalted. Instead of depressed, it's exalted. So, moon is exalted in Taurus. Why? It fits right in this nice little curve up here. It's like, I can chill. Because, you know, they're both about cooking and food and just like really sensual. So anyway, so when you look at the ancient rulerships, Mercury governed the next sign, Gemini, and also Virgo. So Mercury governed 2 signs. Same with Venus. Venus governs Taurus and Libra. That's their rulership. Let's call it, if Venus is in Taurus in the chart, it's said to have dignity. It's in its dignified sign. It's called its domicile. That's its home. You know, Venus in Libra, it's in its domicile, its home. Mars governed Aries and Scorpio. If you watch ancient Romans, they used to go to war in the spring, and then when Scorpio time would come, they would quit their war season. Why? They went from Mars to Mars. You know, Jupiter governed the sea, Pisces, imagination, and Sag, philosophy. You got a little spark there. And then, of course, Saturn governed Aquarius and Capricorn. If you try to take Saturn away from Aquarius and put Uranus in, you're breaking up the structure of the whole zodiac. You're saying, okay, the planet of time doesn't govern the future anymore. It just governs the past, you know. And people with Aquarius arising are all going to start looking the same, or looking very similar, or acting similar, because they're all going to have Uranus for 7 years of generations in a row. Are going to have the same. So you can't take Saturn away. You know what I mean? You got it. What I do is I say that I call this term, you know, because definitely Uranus has a relationship with the sign of Aquarius. You know, electricity, revolution, freedom. So what I just say it has affinity with this sign. That's the technical term that astrologers are coming around to, you know. And Neptune has affinity with Pisces. Pluto has affinity with Scorpio. You know what I mean? You can't see Scorpio, Aries and Scorpio, both Mars signs. Aries is more like the aggressive warrior, just charging in, rah! You know, Scorpio is more like the defensive warrior, like a mother bear protecting her cubs, saying, "You touch my cubs, I kill you." You know what I mean? She's not all like aggro, like Aries can be. She's more like you know, inward. So there's a different kind of Mars. So you can't take Mars away from Scorpio. I mean, otherwise, where do you think Mars got its governorship of sexuality? Scorpio, you know? It's like they're connected, you know? Where do you think Jupiter got all its religious inspiration from? Yes, Sagittarius can be religion in that sense, but the emotional side of religion comes from its relationship with Pisces. That feeling of just unity, consciousness with the divine. So that's the system. Take it or leave it. I love it. If you have that in your head, it really works well. Because if you're looking at a chart, right, and you see someone's 7th house doesn't have any planets in it, and they give you that question, my 7th house is empty. Does that mean I have no relationships? No. You look at the sign, you say, oh, Taurus is here. So your relationship style is sensual. You want to be touched. You want to feed. You want to nurture. Sometimes you want to own the person you're with. Because Taurus is about ownership. But then you go look at Venus. Because look, why? Taurus governs Venus. Oh, and then let's say Venus is in, let's say, Aquarius. I was going to say that. Because back here in the 5th house. Suddenly, there's an image bridge between the 5th house and the 7th house. Because Venus, the ruler of Taurus, is sitting over here in Aquarius. Says, oh, but you also need things to be a little bit zany, unpredictable, strange, bizarre, experimental, and romantic, because it's in the 5th house of joy, play, and love. See how you can go deeper? I came up with a whole bunch of stuff with a blank 7th house. Just because I knew what sign was there, and that was their basic style of doing things in that realm of life. I looked at the planet that governed it, and it told me a little more, add color to the picture, flesh it out with some Aquarius, you know? And then, of course, 5th house is there. What's funny about that?
Just so you used to flesh it out with Aquarius.
Oh, well, we fleshed it out with Taurus, and then we mentalized it with Aquarius, and then we made it have fun and play with 5th house. So, you know, this is a person that wants a lot of romance, a lot of whining, dining, but also some computer electronic time. Metaphysics. So, in their relationships, because I was talking about the 7th house. So, let's keep going here. Okay, so, where's Neptune go? Neptune goes below Venus. Because remember, Neptune and Venus have that relationship of love, divine love. See, Venus is, and look, Neptune is down here. Why? Because Neptune is definitely like the moon. Neptune and the moon are the 2 planets that make you want to go to sleep. You know, Neptune's like, let's dream, let's rest, let's lower the energy. You know, in the astrology book, if you see someone's sun sign and Neptune's coming, it's going to spend, it's going to go retrograde. It's going to spend 2 years on someone's sun sign. You know, Neptune. And what that does, the sun is hot and dry. Neptune is cold and wet. So it's like putting a damp blanket over someone's energy. They're going to feel real fatigued during that time. Unless they're doing Neptune things. If they're doing poetry and imagination and film and arts and helping people, volunteer work, compassion, reaching into their empathy and giving from that universal heart of love, then of course they're going to have a great time. If they have a regular meditation practice, say, a little prayer time, you know, if they got that conversation with the divine going on, they're going to feel like they have 150% energy. I actually went through this. Any Aquarian has gone through this in the last, or is about to go through, because Neptune's in Aquarius right now. And when it crossed my sun, I was working over that green light, you know, doing some charts out there and making smoothies for him. And next thing you know, Neptune came by and I was just really tired all the time. I was like, I can't do anything. I just went to sleep for 13 hours a day. I didn't even come to work one day. I was like, sorry, I'm not coming anymore. I gotta sleep. And then, and then I suddenly got inspired about. I said, okay, you're an astrologer. You know Neptune's hit your sun. Come on, let's start doing Neptune things. So I made my life. I organized my schedule around Neptunian activities, and suddenly I had more energy. I could even go to sleep at night. I was like so supercharged with energy because I knew that during this season of my soul, Neptune's there doing its thing, and of course, film came into it.
And Neptune's somewhere right now.
Yeah, it's at 21 Aquarius.
Okay, but is that different but it's different for everybody in this room, like where what
it's
doing?
Yeah, if Neptune's the planet of the sea, it dissolves things. If Neptune's crossing someone's, say, their 7th house, remember the example I just gave? Then their relationships are dissolving or spiritualizing, or they're facing dark Neptune shadow themes like the victim-martyr syndrome. You know, they're either playing the victim or the victim-martyr, or even the victimizer. You know, it depends on how you're working your Neptune.
So how is what is happening now related to your birth chart? Like,
oh, because
how is it like in my whatever house and then your whatever house? It's in different places for
yeah,
people.
Yeah, right. Because wherever the planets are in the sky today, you're gonna. When we get to the class on that, I'm gonna give you another sheet that's gonna have your chart with the transits moving around the outside, and you're gonna see where they are. You're gonna go, oh, this is the flow right now. So yeah, but Neptune's somewhere moving through your chart right now. So we'll see that. Is that light blinking? How much time on it?
It's blinking.
Okay. Want to change it? Oh, we got to do 2 more planets here.
2 minutes.
Okay, we got 2 minutes. Cool. All right, check it out. We have for a long time I've been meditating on this, and I was talking to Gary Keaton, and it all came together. Pluto is below Mercury, under, like in the board. Just imagine it under Mercury, because it governs the underworld. You know, this is where Robert Hand, the great scholar of astrology, said Pluto belongs. He said it goes under Mercury because it's just like Mercury. Pluto, for instance, can be hot. It can be like a volcano, destroying a city. It could be separate. You know, I mean, this is the phase of old age, death. Pluto can kill you if it's a planet of death. It can be wet, planet of sexuality, passion, Pluto's passion, and it can be cold, like in the underworld, frozen. See, to the Greeks, hell was really cold, not hot. Hades, you know, the realm of the dead. And so Pluto is like that. Pluto can do all 4 directions. However, it's different than Mercury because unlike Mercury, Pluto has a special power. It takes the message and doesn't just pass it on. It transforms it and then passes it on. It alchemically alters it, you know. One time I had Pluto opposing my moon sign. Christina has it right now. Pluto squaring her moon. And it only happens once in your life, if at all, you know, because Pluto takes 248 years to get around. So, but eventually it'll make an aspect to your moon, and you'll be like, and it'll feel like your soul's boiling. Why? Because Pluto likes to transform something into its opposite. So it took my moon, cold and wet, and made it hot and dry. So my soul felt like it was drying out and being heated up. So it feels like Kali. Pluto's like Kali. Had her spear right in my heart, turning it with a necklace of skulls, going, will you transform and cross through the threshold? It's the next level of consciousness. So yeah, it rips away all your habits, all your thinking, all your instincts, everything that's
been in mind my whole life.
Well, you're a Scorpionic type, so you know you're
change again. That's normal. When do I get to stay the same for a while?
Yeah, right. Then Pluto goes over in Taurus and stays there for 20 years. When you think about it, because Jupiter's supposed to be like, you know, happy, grandiose, full of life, all this stuff, right? And so a lot of times, you know, you'll see Jupiter conjuncting someone's sun, and you're like, oh my God, you're coming up on a great time and your life purpose is going to expand and your life force is going to expand. Yeah, it expands right on out of here. From the other side, it probably looks real good. Everybody else is sitting there wearing black at the funeral, going, oh, trying to feel bad about it or whatever. But the person on the other side is like, yeah, I'm out of here. I don't got to pay my water bill anymore. I am free. Done with this place. On to new lessons. But anyway, Jupiter is implicated a lot in that. Usually when Pluto's coming across other people, oh, I'm going to die, I always say, no, Pluto's not going to let you off the hook that easy. Pluto's more like put you on a torture rack first, before it kills you. Says, I want to get some rebirth out of you. I want to get some recycling, regeneration out of you. So yeah, so Sirius is here. Why? Because she's above Mercury. She's up here outside the chalkboard. I used to have Sirius down here, like you saw on my old sheet, because she brings the spring. And she's very wet, like the moon. She likes to cook and nourish life. I mean, this is the planet of nourishing life and feeding people. And so she symbolizes abundance. But then when I was studying the Homeric epics, they always called Sirius the bringer of seasons. And that got me meditating and thinking about it for my new book. And I decided to put her above Mercury because two reasons. One is she is the bringer of seasons, and so why just give her to one season, spring or two seasons, spring and winter. Yes, she brought winter upon the land because Pluto stole her daughter, Persephone, and took her into the underworld, raped her, and she became the queen of the underworld, Persephone, right? And yes, spring, winter, Persephone comes back up out of the underworld and she gets happy and brings some spring. So, but she also governs this whole cycle. She's the bringer of all four seasons, So I said, okay, there's still summer and fall, So by putting her above Mercury, it's cool because it polarizes her with Pluto. Remember, Pluto's below Mercury. Her nemesis, Ceres, is where we get the word cereal from, the grain goddess. Her Greek name is Demeter, or Da Mater, which means Earth Mother. So, you'll see her implicated a lot. And people with, massage therapists, people that do touch for a living, people that deal with, herbs and nature and the illusion mysteries. She was the goddess of the illusion blood mysteries, too, so of ancient Greece. So, all this stuff is connected with Pluto and Pluto's transformation. And it's really cool because recently when the astronomers got together and kicked Pluto out of planetary status, they redefined what a planet is, and they said, okay, Pluto doesn't fit anymore, but we're going to make a new classification of it. We're calling it a dwarf planet, which most astrologers were up in arms about it, and actually at the UBAC, and they did it without consulting us because they don't care about us. So they should at least said, let's see what the astrologers think, but they don't respect us. They say you guys don't count. So at our conference in Denver, which is our World Gathering Conference just last month in May, we all got together and we had a group vote of 3,000 people, and the group vote was to reinstate Pluto as a full-fledged planet, and everybody agreed. So now Pluto's a planet again. But anyway, I kind of liked that they made it a dwarf planet because Pluto likes to be small and covert. Pluto likes to be, the power of, say, like a disease that can take you out. It's invisible, but it's so powerful. Sirius is the same. What they did was they elevated Sirius as a dwarf planet. So Sirius took a notch up in astronomy. And so in astrology, I always thought anyway, it's in my book, 1994, I've been talking about Sirius being the grain goddess. And look at the symbol for Sirius. It's the four elements, fire, earth, air, water, and consciousness rising out of it. The consciousness of nature, the consciousness of the four elements, the fire, the earth, the air, the water. So she's the nature goddess. And we're having a reemergence of her in the world right now, which is really cool, because we really need it to balance all this patriarchal, let's blow ourselves up with nuclear bombs. So this is the sort of the system here, If you can wrap your head around this and just really feel this, meditate on this sheet, meditate on all these words, these key words here, There was one word I wanted to add. Actually, she added it, but I just didn't put it up on the new printout. This is from online. And wet, right here in this space, add the word granulation. This is what Lee Lehman, the classic scholar of astrology, who actually lives in Asheville, and she's doing a whole summer symposium about ancient astrology. She's the dean of Kepler College, which is the online university of astrology where you can actually it's centered in Seattle, and they have the ability to grant degrees in astrology. It's a certified, accredited degree-granting university, but it's all happening online, except they have to get together a certain amount of times a year, like 4 times a year, for a symposium for a week. Anyway, she lives in Asheville, the dean of Kepler College, and she comes to our meeting sometimes. If you guys want to come to the meeting, we have a new group in astrology called the Asheville Friends of Astrology, AFOA, and the website is ashevillefriendsofastrology.org, because it's an organization. And we're having our meeting. We always do 4th Tuesday of the month. And this month we're meeting tomorrow, or Tuesday, 2 days from now, because it's the last Tuesday of the month. So we have a local astrologer named Gary Caton who writes for the Mountain Astrologer, and he's a prominent astrologer, and he's Aquarius rising. We have a lot of cool astrologers in town. So you're in a good town. And anyway, we have all these great astrologers that come. So we always have like 30 people, 50 people, however many people. But he's doing a great lecture on Tuesday night over at Earth Fair in the conference room. So if you're not doing anything, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, yeah. So if you're not doing anything on Tuesday, good time to come down and learn some more astrology. And me and Gary are doing videos together online on YouTube. So if you watch the video about the qualities, you'll see Gary and me breaking it down. But, so do I got all the planets in here? Don't want to leave anybody out. So you can feel it. So when you see the moon in the chart, think cold, wet. Think relaxes and unifies, right? When you see the sun, it energizes and sort of separates, It's the ego. It's like, okay, I'm different from you. When you see Jupiter, know that it connects and it brings energy. Saturn lowers energy.
So if the sun and the moon are in the same place.
Yeah, that's the new moon. When you get the sun and the moon in the same place, you're born on the new moon. That's why a new cycle begins, Because basically cold and wet is canceling out hot and dry, and it's like neutral. It's like the start of it's like erasing the chalkboard. Literally. When you're a new moon person, your chalkboard is erased. You come into this lifetime, and you're like, oh, hey, my chalkboard's erased. And I can do anything. I'm a pioneer. You feel like your tank is full of gas and you're ready to trek off into new territory. If you're born with the moon behind the sun, though, like if the sun's at 20 degrees and the moon is like 5 degrees of a sign, like the moon's still coming back to the sun, it hasn't crossed the sun yet in the new moon, then you're like this. You're born with a full chalkboard. That's called the dark moon phase, the balsamic phase. People that are born in the balsamic phase are here to like make sense of 8 lifetimes worth of information on the chalkboard, and then leave it all in one little seed and give it to like a few people, and then move on and get out of here.
If the moon is down closer to the ascendant or up?
It depends on what side of the chart you're talking about. Let me see. Yeah, your moon is ahead of the sun. So you're a new moon. You're an Aries new mooner. So not only are you a pioneer in the Aries archetype, the leader, the daredevil, try anything once, but you're also a new moon phase person, which is a person who is here to blank slate, to try stuff new, to invent. They're free to go. So this is the coolest system, and understanding this stuff, it just brings it into nature. It brings it into alchemy. You can feel what Saturn's about. It's cold. It's dry, So you're having an argument with your boss, and he's like being cold and dry, and you can be like, you're really role-playing Saturn right now. It's like, how does it feel to be my Saturn transit? I actually told an astrologer that once, because he was giving me some crap about something, and he wasn't signing the release form for the movie. The only astrologer didn't sign the release form. And it happened under my Saturn squaring my Mars, and my Jupiter, my Neptune, all in the house of movies. I was like, come on, we gotta get this release there signed. I can't push you the film. And then he like limited me in a sense, Saturn. And then I said to him, I said, how does it feel to be my Saturn transit right now? And then he laughed and signed the release form.
I don't understand how you can tell on your chart like where your moon is ahead or.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Okay, let's look at that then.
Are you going to pull up someone's chart or not?
Well, let me just
I'll
talk about this. Lunar phases. Okay. Imagine the sun and moon. The sun and the moon meeting right here. That would be the new moon. Right? Then you have over here, when the moon's over here, opposite, that's the full moon, right? So we call this the full moon phase. It's just dividing the circle into 4. Just the seasons, This would be winter. This would be December. You know, this is the winter solstice, right? Symbolically, you know what I mean? This would be summer solstice, maximum light. These are the equinoxes. This is the waxing quarter moon, first quarter. I like to call it the waxing quarter. And this is the waning quarter. Right here. This phase. Alright? So the moon just goes out, you know. If you find that the moon is, these are 45-degree angles. If you find that the moon is 45 degrees ahead of the sun, you're actually born into this phase. It's called the crescent phase. If you find that the moon is squaring the sun, or, you know, 90 degrees to 120 degrees, then you're born into the waxing quarter phase, or first quarter. This would be 0 to 45. This would be 45 to 90. This is 180. So if you're born between 120 and 180, those are the healers. They're all born in the gibbous phase.
So are all the signs going counterclockwise?
Yeah, all the signs are going away. So like if you have the sun in Aries and then you have the moon in Cancer, you're a wax quarter phase, waxing quarter. If you have the sun in Aries and the moon's in Libra, then going around, yeah, all the signs always go counterclockwise. So if you're born in this phase, you're in the disseminating phase of the moon cycle, disseminating the truth. This is the waning quarter here, and this here is the balsamic phase. It's the vinegar phase. It's the dark moon phase. This is the time of the highest magic, when the veils are open. You know, when the moon the moon literally disappears for 3.5 days and says bye-bye. And it's where we get all of our myths of like, Jesus went down to the underworld for 3.5 days, or if you go back 2,000 years, you got the same story in Egypt. Osiris was dismembered in the underworld for 3.5 days. So you got that moon thing going on. But so the basic keywords is a new moon type person is more of a pioneer, energized person. They're here to trek into new territory. A crescent person is about learning. Crescent really means growing ones, so they're growing people. They're here to master a set of skills and give those skills to others. You know, it's like they're here to create, to grow a personality. You know, and you go through these phases every 3.5 years. You change phase based on your progressed moon's relationship with your progressed sun. But that's a whole other next year. We'll get to it. Class 7. But anyway, waxing quarter people are like the rare heroes that are on the way to slay the dragon. They're crazy people. They don't live normal life well as individuals. They always rock the boat because they just can't handle things being too not exciting. So they're just like, I'm waxing quarter. And so they're the ones that are just like, you know, they're here to create a structure to contain the spiritual vision that's deposited in their souls. That's what they're here to do. Build that structure. Because this is like a plant. This is the seed being planted. This is when the seed's sprouting up, right? Crescent. This is an analogy of a plant cycle. This is when the plant's creating its structure, or its roots, and its whole structure. Gibbous phase is sort of like the budding of the plant. People here have a lot of Buddha consciousness. They're healers. Because they come in with all these wounds, you know, they've had 3 lifetimes so far, and they're like, I'm wounded. They come in and they're like, they're trying to learn how to navigate the river, you know. And they're great healers. They're great at analyzing things. It's very Virgo, this phase. And then the full moon people it's a big relationship phase. People come in their full moon and are like, relationships are the key for me, you know. Whereas Aries people over here, or new moon people, are more like, I have to learn to trust my instincts, right? If I listen to what everybody else says, then I'm not going to evolve. I need to trust my base gut instincts. If I feel it, go with it, you know. Whereas these people need to learn the opposite lesson. Full moon are like, I need to build a set of allies and trust their advice, and they need the counselors, you know. Disseminating phase people, that's like, okay, this is the flowering of the seed, right, in the plant cycle. It's flowering, but it's not ripe yet. This is the ripening phase. This is the ripening phase, disseminate. When a soul comes in under a disseminating phase, they're here to teach something great to humanity. Not that other people can't teach stuff to great humanity, but these people are the great teacher. Einstein, disseminating phase. He's like, E equals MC squared. Waning quarter is about revisioning things, reimagining, reorienting, and you know, it's just it's the redoing things phase. So revise, and so reorient. Because over here you're building up your life. You're saying, what is life about? And over here things are going down, right? And so this is like the yang cycle. This is the yin. right? So this is where you decide what it meant that what we built over here. Over here, you build up all these structures. Over here, it's like, well, what does it mean? You know, what does it mean? How does it relate to how I feel? You know, this is more of a, you know, right here you get to the point where you look back at those structures and say, well, let's revise it. Let's reorient ourselves, you know? And then, of course, people born into that phase, they come in, they're like, they feel like they've already been triumphant in some of their lifetime, and now they're left going, well, what's next? And they come in just questioning things. Well, why do I have to be part of that religion?
So
that's dumb.
Does that mean, am I in that pretty biased?
No, because, let me see. All right, so her sun is here, and her moon is there. So if you mess this up.
Put the sun at the bottom.
Yeah, put the sun.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Whenever you're finding, all your aspects have a waxing or waning. And to find it, you always find the slow planet. You know, you always find the slow planet. In this one, we're looking at the aspect between the sun and the moon. So in your case, okay, you always find the slow planet. What I mean by that is the moon takes a month to go around, sun a year. So this is the slow planet.
So between the two, whatever you're...
And then you pretend it's a lead weight. And you say, okay, that's the guy that's standing there with a timer. And that's the guy running the lap, you know. And this is the halfway point of the lap. That would be the full moon phase, you know. So, you know.
So then it was like that.
Yeah. Now, if this was reversed, if the sun was up here, and the moon was, say, down here, you know, you run it this way. So either way, what's that?
I was like, damn it, teacher, damn it.
Oh, you're a teacher? Yeah. Yeah, see, her sun's here. And the way you find out real quick is you go, okay, if it's 3 degrees Scorpio or 4 degrees round up, you just go to 4 degrees of Leo. And that would be the turning point right here. So then you can see her moon's back in this phase, so you know it's a disseminator. After a while, you just look and say, disseminator. You don't have to measure degrees. But, you know, sometimes it's real close, and you're going to measure it. But, you know, most of the times you can just say, oh, because you can just see it. If you just put a square in there, it's behind the square, so you know she's a disseminator. Whereas like her, she's got the sun here. 19 degrees is Libra, so 19 degrees Capricorn would start the waxing phase. So you go 45 degrees ahead, right? And you got to see if your moon is there or not. And so if you go 45 degrees ahead from 19, you get 11 plus 30, which is 41, 42, 3, 4, 45. So you're 1 or 2 degrees into the give us faith. Give us faith. So you're a healer. This is yours, Jasmine?
I thought I was going to rock the boat.
Well, no, these guys rock the boat. They just do it by analyzing the boat first and figure out where the hole is. Okay.
Yes, that's fun.
But anyway, we're going to talk more about this. We just need to talk about the planets today.
It looks like...
But that was good. That was a good aside because it shows you how planets relate to each other through aspects, the angle. So we'll get into that more.
Well, hey, Kelly, will you look at Sarah's and tell her?
Yeah, you don't know yours? Let's see. What do you think you are?
I would say crescent.
Okay, yeah, because you see the sun's here, 4 degrees. So you go ahead 4 degrees Cancer, and that would be 30 degrees. But then you go another 15 degrees. So you're actually born on the new moon.
So you add 45 degrees to where your sun is?
Yeah. Each phase is 45. You're a new moon. You're sitting right next to one, too. So y'all both sitting in a new moon. I find that when I teach seminars, and there's like 20 people there, like you'll tell that all the new moons will be sitting over here, and all the full moons over here. She's a waxing quarter like me, right? Yeah, Christina's sun is at 0 or 29 Gemini. Her moon's at 1 degree Libra. So if you think the square would be at 29 of Virgo, because 29 Gemini, square is 29 Virgo. So it's like she's 1 degree into the waxing quarter. So she's crazy like me. That's why we get along. So she's a hero. She's a hero.
Yay! Thanks, guys.
We can both rock each other's boat. Okay. So anyway, we have the planets. Now, when you look at the planets, you should have that one sheet out that has all the planets. This one. It has symbols of astrology. So that way you can just see that each planet has a psychological urge. You know? And a function, you know, in your psychology. And everybody has all 12 planets strangely mixed. That's the cool part. Is that we're all mixed up. That's why people think most people are schizophrenic. Like, what side was that coming out? You know? I have one brother that has like Venus conjunct his Uranus and Pluto on this side of the chart, which is crazy in and of itself. But then he has the opposite. He's got his moon in Pisces conjunct Saturn and Chiron. And does he look bipolar? Yes. He's very bipolar. And he acts like that, Sometimes he goes into that Virgo mode where he's like the medic and really wants to help you and analyze. And then he goes into this whole other person comes on him. And he's like this artist. It's just real spacey. And it's like, dude, which one are you going to be? And he's both. He's just both. People like that need drugs. Or they need some good astrology knowledge and consciousness to rise above and say, today, for half the day, I'm going to be this self. And the other half, see, you can consciously have drugs yourself and just be the drug by consciousness.
So do you think, so people who have diagnoses of bipolar, is it usually really blatant in their chart?
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. You'll see it real strong. They'll have like 5 planets in Leo, and then there'll be like 8 planets in there, 8 planets. There'll be like 3 planets over here. Yeah, you'll see. There's 2 crazy paradigms in their chart. So, the sun, what's its urge? To shine. So when you're doing your astrological spice statement, remember, you have a planet expressing itself in a sign, and it expresses itself in a house. That's the basic formula of interpretation, If it's the sun, you say, your urge to shine is being expressed in the archetype of, let's say it's Pisces, the mystic, the poet, the dreamer, in the 5th house. So sun in Pisces in the 5th house, which graphically would look like that. So, anyway, sun in Pisces in the 5th house. Your urge to shine is being expressed in the archetype. I like to memorize 3 keywords for each side. Like Pisces, the mystic, the visionary artist. The poet, the musician. It's a good one for Pisces. And it doesn't mean that means that person has to be a musician. It just means that archetype of the musician is strong enough. It could be, just a great public speaker. But that when they start speaking, it's like, wow, everybody wants to listen because there's like a music coming out of them. Because they're tuned into the archetype of the muse, Pisces. So, sun in Pisces in the 5th house. Your urge to shine is being expressed in the archetype of the mystic, visionary artist, and musician. In the life field, remember, you always translate the house. In the experiential field. And I look at these as fields of energy. So it's an energy field. So in the life experiential field of, and the 5th house has to do with Leo, so it's creativity, it's romance, it's play, it's your inner child. So, this might not you might not feel this in your own self. To you, it's just symbols on a page and you're just reading them. But when you say this to someone that has this, it's like you're playing their strings, you're playing their music, they're like, wow, you know me, you understand me, that's me. And then they can explore these symbols and take it deeper, You can say, wow, your life purpose involves, this is called symbol amplification. Symbol amplification. It's when you take the symbol and amplify it into various meanings. Like, they keep going, okay, the sun is life force, life purpose. So you can say your life force, and you can say, okay, let's look at this on the spiritual level. The spiritual principle of Pisces is unity through compassion through unity, or unity through unconditional love. It's like Piglet and Winnie the Pooh. Real big heart guy. He's little, but he's like, I got a big heart. Sometimes he likes to play the martyr. Don't worry, Al, you can have my house. Your house blew over. But for the most part, you can say, your life force is in the sign of unconditional love and unity consciousness. And that's part of your life purpose, is to express that in the 5th house of creativity. Maybe they have a child. This is the house of children. Maybe they have a Pisces child that they're working with in this lifetime. And that's one of their dharma, their life work. There's many ways to express this, Maybe they're a musician and they go perform. It's the house of performance, 5th house is about performance. So it's their life purpose to perform as a musician or as a mystic. Maybe they do readings down at the local New Age bookshop. There's always a lady up in there doing readings. You just see it. And they got this glamour thing going on because it's the 5th house, So that's what I mean by amplifying the symbol. Just keep going with the meanings. Well, right now we just want to talk about what each planet does.
Do you want to take a break?
Yeah. What time is it?
Pretty.
So you might need a bathroom break? Let's do a break. We'll be back. We'll go dive right into the planets. Where'd that water go? Oh, there it is.
Should we stop tape?
Yeah, just hit that little red button. Go in the other room and stretch. Is the yoga?
Where's the red button?
Oh.
There it goes.
Are you going to say action?
Yeah, but it took forever.
Oh, well, she was like... When I was filming my movie, I had the performers, including Christina here, and said, "Look, I'm not a director who's gonna give you guys a bunch of lines and make you memorize them and get all awkward. I just want you to like say this one thing, but just be natural, be yourselves. Like you were at the coffee shop, that girl's crying in the corner. What would you do? You know, action. Actually, but what I would say, since I'm bringing it from within and being very zen, I would say, ready, in action. It's a zen joke. Okay. Doing without doing, you know. It's like don't force it, just be it. Right? And that's what the chart's about, you know. When you want to go stay home and read a book and play and be creative and watch a movie, that's just you. That's who you are. You know, you've got to be you. And most people try to organize themselves around what society needs. Like, oh God, I gotta go look in the want ads for a job. You know, it's like no, you gotta be who you are. This is your job. And if the community can't respect that and find a role for you, or if you can't create a role for you, then something's wrong with society, not you. See, society makes it that, oh, there's something wrong with you. You're not doing what everybody else is doing and being normal. But nobody's normal. Everybody's unique. You know, there's no normal. What is normal? That's the illusion, although it's made to be that that's the real thing. But if you're doing your chart, you're going to just create a vibration of authenticity around you that you're going to find your life calling, you know, just by looking at your midheaven. Like you have Leo on the midheaven. So it says you need to, whatever you need to do in the world, it needs to be fun and playful and bring out the inner child, maybe even working with children. And then, of course, the sun is over here in the house of children, so it just amplifies that. And creativity and performance, and it's in Aries, so pioneering. It's on the cusp of the 6th house, so hey, I got a work thing going on. Who's ringing?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. But anyway, all I'm saying is that your chart is a map of your cosmic potential, and you're born in response to the spiritual need of the planet. So you better come here and embody all the forces in your chart. And the cool thing is that you change. You know, different seasons will come along, different planets will move here, move there. And for this 2 years, oh wow, I get to explore this aspect of life, you know, and then you go for it. Like with me with filmmaking over this last 3 years, it's been like Neptune on my sun, Neptune on my north node, and then I make this first documentary on astrology. Did anybody watch it, by the way? Did you watch it? No? Oh, okay.
Watch it.
Right. Did you watch yours?
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, good. We'll see. We're going to be doing a live showing at Earth Fair next month in our next monthly meeting at the organization on the big screen.
I want to make a movie.
You want to make a movie? Didn't you have some Pisces?
I do.
Okay, so yeah. You're the Pisces. I can help you. I've been researching it for 2 years. Okay, so the sun's there is to shine, right? Mercury's there is to know things, you know, to communicate things. It's that basic curiosity of the soul. It's the urge to know and to communicate that knowing, right? So, Mercury is your learning style. It's how you learn. If every teacher would take a kid and say, hey, look at their Mercury. And also the 3rd house. You know, the 3rd house is the Mercury house. 3rd house, any planets in here is going to affect your learning style. Einstein had Uranus in there, the planet weirdo, freak, inventor, scientist, sage. And so his perception of the world was very unusual because he had Uranus in the 3rd house. And he had like a yod to it, a finger of God saying, develop this or else. You know? So he was really, you know, if you think about it, Uranus can only appear in 12 houses. So 1/12 of people are out there walking around with Uranus in the 3rd house going, wow, what would it be like to ride a light ray? You know? They're like thinking like Einstein, you know? And when you see somebody walking by like that, you just go, maybe they got Uranus in the 3rd house. But, you know, we all have it somewhere. So the sun is the ego, it's the identity, the core. So it's who you are at the core, you know, the core. It's funny, the sun governs the heart, and core in Latin means heart. Corazon in Spanish. Cour in French. Same root of the word courage. We get here. Courage. So the sun has that lion energy, courage, you know. So the sun shows how you are as a core identity. And the cool thing I like to think of it is this, is the sun is what we're here to grow into in this lifetime. It's the kind of fuel you're burning. It's the furnace of your being. So if you're not burning the right sun fuel, you know, and just you can just look at that elementally, you know, earth, air, fire, water. You know, whatever element your sun's in, we're going to study elements next time. But, you know, if you got earth as a sun, earth is nature, earth is sensation, earth is organization. You know, air is intellect, thinking. Like me, I'm a sun in Aquarius. So if I don't get a daily dose of air, intellectual energy, I'm going to feel fatigue. You know, because the sun is also your life force. Kind of fuel you're burning here. So your life force is very important. One of the greatest things you can do as an astrologer to help someone is say, here's what kind of fuel you're burning. Burn it. Otherwise, you're going to be like everybody else in this society. Fatigue. You know, the people that do their sun signs right, work their energy right, are going to feel maximum energy. You know, so if the sun is in, say, Pisces, in the 5th house, just to use our example, this person needs a dose of water and a dose of fire, because the 5th house is very fiery. But mainly the archetype of the sign. You know, the house of where needs to come out. So this person needs to burn some fuel in furnace, some water, some emotion, some imagination in the house of creativity. You know what I mean? 5th house. We studied houses last time. But that's where the sun, that character, remember the planets are the characters, the signs are the plot that the characters have, the agendas that they have, their motivations come from the signs. And then of course they're trying to express it in the stages, the settings, the houses of the chart. So yeah, so that's an amazing thing to know about just what kind of fuel you're burning. If you're a fiery sun sign like a Sag, and you know you need to go running each day, or else you're going to feel like crap. You know, then go running. You know, get your inner horse going on. You know, if you're an Aries, you know, you need fire. How are you going to get that fire? You know, how are you going to express that? Fire is the principle of action. It's the principle, you know, there's 3 fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. They create a trigon of energy. Aries' principle is carpe diem, seize the day. You know, action, activity. Leo's principle is creativity through dramatic performance. Right? And Sagittarius' principle is faith through divine inspiration. So, if you think about it, if you're creative and you're active in your creativity, it gives you a sense of meaning and faith. Sagittarius. So to me, meaning comes from creative action. I know a lot of creative artists that create meaning, and they're like, wow, my life has more meaning because I wake up every day and I'm active in my creativity. You know, every sign has this thing. Like if you're doing the Earth sign, we'll look at this later, but Taurus and Virgo and Capricorn, they're all connected. And you have all these signs in your chart. Somewhere in your chart, Virgo's analyzing the hell out of things. So not just Virgos or Virgos, you have Virgo in your chart. I have Virgo in my 9th house, which means I'm always analyzing belief systems and philosophies and ways of knowing the universe, you know. So everybody has Virgo. But here's the flow here. Taurus is about values. The principle is presence, be here now. Virgo's about, the principle is you can accomplish anything if you break it down into steps, bite-sized pieces. The principle of Virgo is about devotion. Devotion to your craft. Training your skills, right? And then Capricorn is about expertise. Well, Virgo's more about expertise, finding the craft. Capricorn's about professionalism. It's about integrity. And ambition guided by integrity. Yeah, you want to accomplish things, but do you have integrity? Is it all like together? And so it's cool, because when you find out what you value, and then you go gain a skill, devote yourself to it, then you can find your life calling, your sense of integrity, integratedness, so that you can work as a whole being. Like me, I value the stars as a little 7-year-old. I would always go out and look at the stars and watch Star Wars movies and go, wow, are there aliens on other planets? They kicked me out of church because I kept asking, did Jesus go to every planet in the galaxy? Or what? How did he get all the, you know? And so they said, we don't need your questions anymore. So anyway, I asked the wrong questions. Actually, they were the right questions. They just didn't know how to deal with them. So, the Aquarius thing ahead of their time. So value, okay, but then once I realized when I was 14, 7 years later, I was like, wow, I can be an astrologer? I can master a skill where I can speak about what I value, this heavenly connection, and then I became an astrologer, integrated. So the earth sign is about being effective in society, and then finding it in nature too. Earth's about nature. So like Christina values Taurus, the plants, and she gains skill of being a plant, touch, massage person, and then she's whatever she is. And then she's Capricorn. That's her career. Just today she goes, you know what? I finally feel like I'm really a massage therapist. You don't feel like it the first year. She's like, you just feel like an imposter. Like, what am I doing? And she's like, now I just feel like I can just touch someone and heal them, And I was like, here, work on my back. So anyway, that's that. Now the moon, drop down here. Whoa, need a little more space than that. The moon is soul. The moon is feeling. The moon is emotion. Energy in motion. The moon is imagination. Well, Neptune is the divine imagination then. Neptune is the imagination of the whole universe, the ability to tap into the divine visions, but the moon is your personal access point to it. You know what I mean? Like when you have a dream at night, you can go look at your chart and see where the moon was going through your chart, and you'll get the archetypal meaning of the dream, even if you don't remember the dream. You just wake up like, wow, that was intense, and then you don't remember much. Just look where the moon is, and you'll see what that dream was about. Or if you do remember a dream, and you go look at the moon in your chart, because if you think about it, here's the solar system, right? Or let's say here's the galaxy, and here's our little solar system. And in that little solar system, there's all these planets. And here we are on Earth, standing there. Giant galaxy, solar system, planets. We came to this one star out of billions of stars. Why? I don't know. We're all here. And then here's the Earth, and you're standing there. Well, you know how furnaces have a filter? Well, there's one filter that filters all the energy of the universe down into Earth, and that is the moon. So that's what I mean by if you have a dream, the moon is your emotional field that holds all that stuff. So you have a dream that's really intense. The moon's positioned by a chart in the sky. Well, it's sort of show you the meaning of the dream. You'll have a dream about a battle, and you wake up, and that night moon will be on your Mars or squaring your Mars, and you're like, So because we live out what we imagine and what we feel in our dream life. The moon's sort of the access point for all this stuff to come pouring down.
So moon in the first house is how you express yourself.
Well, it just means that when the moon, if the moon's rising in the first house, that when people see you, the first thing they see, the ascendant is what they see. Remember, it's your appearance, and so people are going to see moon person, lunar person. You can be like, wow, you're a lunatic. No, just kidding. It means you're emotional, you're nurturing, you got water retention in your body. You're just more lunar, more caring, more sensitive, more yin. They feel that. No matter what sign it's in. Then you add the sign, that's a whole other layer. You know what I mean? So, and what I was going to say a while ago, the sun is the life force, right? But down deep inside you is the moon. And the moon reflects the past. The moon is always the karmic past, through the memories and the cells that were in you that were once in 7 generations ago. All those generations coming down the pipe, Here's you, and then your mom and your dad, and then their moms and dads, and their moms and dads, and their moms and dads. Yeah, all the way back for 7 times, right? That stuff is in your moon. That's why the moon also governs your habits. But the biggest keyword for the moon in astrology is your need. It's your core need. Core needs of the soul. Like my moon's in Gemini, I need to communicate. I need to write. I need to talk to people and have the conversation. If your moon's in Taurus, you need to chill, to relax, to make some food, to get a back rub, to get a massage. You need to be present in nature. You need a dose of Mother Nature every day to feel emotional contentment. That's what the moon is about. Emotional contentment. That's a big keyword for the moon. And and what that translates to in practical terms that we can help people with is inner peace. There's entire books written on the subject of inner peace. Everybody wants it. Well, in astrology, go right to the moon and you can tell someone where to get it. You can say, oh, your moon is in this sign, in this house, and has this aspect, this aspect, this aspect. You can be like, so here's the core emotional need, and here's the modifiers, and bam. You try that. Let me see if you're depressed next week. You know, because if you don't feed the moon, you're going to get depressed. You know? Everybody gets depressed real fast if they don't feed the moon. If you don't feed the sun, you're going to run out of energy and feel fatigued. But just doing astrology of sun and moon can be like a tremendous service to people. You know? And when I mean moon, I mean like the aspect. If someone has the moon square to Uranus, I don't care what sign or what house it is. I mean, yes, that's the first thing you talk about. But if it's square to Uranus, that person's going to have a strong need for, you know, emotional, like, you know, volatility. Uranus, like, breaks connections. Uranus raises energy. So emotionally, they're going to be a live wire. One of those really high-strung people, you know? So they need to channel that somehow. Maybe go skydiving, do something. Stephen King had that in his chart. He had his moon opposing Uranus. And his relationship with his mom was really weird. His mom would come in one time and be like, Miss Beautiful, Perfect Mom, and the next time beat him up. And he was just like freaked out about Mom, because Mom was like unpredictable. Mom was strange. Mom was like going to be this freak that's going to beat me, or this like nurturing, loving goddess. And so he was just like, but then he wrote her into all his horror stories, and that's how he dealt with it. He became the horror writer, you know? So there's ways to use all your stuff, even if you have some of the weirdest stuff, you know? There's a way to heal it, and to move through it, to use it, you know? And not get depressed about it, you know? So the moon is the past, and it's kind of channeling through your sun, and your rising sign is sort of like a funnel out to the future. The rising sign is what you're developing into, you know? So the moon is the soul essence. You're really good at it, but you're kind of stuck there. The sun is the kind of fuel you're burning. So, in your life purpose, it's going to get you to where you're going, to develop the dharma of the ascendant. Every ascendant has a, let me see this sheet right here. Every ascendant has a spiritual principle. Right here is listed, the spiritual principle. If your ascendant is Sagittarius like mine, my dharma in life is the principle of faith through divine inspiration. I'm supposed to be an exemplar of that principle. So when someone says, oh no, we're going to die, I'm like, come on, be confident. Hang in there. We're going to win this game. It's fourth quarter. Come on. I was the captain of the football team, you know? So I'm the guy that has to walk that path of faith, no matter what. It doesn't mean being overindulgent or overconfident. There's a dark side to every shadow side. But like every sign's about that. If you're Scorpio rising, you're the alchemist. You're here to transform the lead of the lower self into the gold of the higher self, and to bring. You just walk around in society, and you're like, change. And everybody's like, ah. She's scary.
Especially with your Uranus.
Especially with Uranus, yeah. If you're Scorpio rising with Uranus, people are like, she's interesting and unique and bizarre, and she's such a freak and weird, but she's like changing me. Yeah.
So Dharma means spiritual principle?
Oh no, Dharma is like life work.
Or like
In Indian terminology. I use it because your rising sign, by planet, like your Dharma would be Scorpio, and Uranus would be part of your Dharma, because it's rising. So any planet in the first house, in this house, number one, she has Uranus in there, in Scorpio. So I would say that your Dharma would be Scorpio,
so
yes.
You want to like walk into public schools and be like, let's use astrology.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So Scorpio is the principle of that alchemy, of empowerment through surrender. You know, render means to melt. Sur means like the surf, the highest point in the way. It means melting to the divine. Aligning your will with the divine will. In other words, being obedient to the divine will. The divine will says, go to the library and get a book today, you go. Because you don't know. I mean, you have to be tuned in to understand the divine will. But it's like, Uranus is there, and what's Uranus about? Freedom through authenticity, right? And individuation, which is a Jungian word for being original and being true to your original self. So you got a really tough dharma here in society. People are like, oh, be normal. And you're coming here saying, empowerment through surrender, freedom of authenticity through individuation. And they're looking like you're crazy. This moment lost it, you know? But you're like, this is what I'm about. I'm here to bring passionate change through being my original Uranian self. I mean, Uranus is where you're most alien. Like me, it's in my house of career. And I'm an astrologer, you know. My teacher saw that at 14. She goes, a grand air trine between the moon and Gemini, sun in the sign of astrology, Aquarius with a grand trine to Uranus in the house of career. She's like, will you be my next apprentice? I'm like, yes. And so Uranus is that right. So, and any time a planet's angular like that, in one of these houses, 4th, 7th, 10th, 1st, these angular planets are double strength, but on the ascendant it's triple strength. So planets in angular houses. First,
ascendant
4th.
is first house.
Yeah. The ascendant is actually this line here, the point where the horizon's coming into being. So things are starting to appear in the east. That's why they called it your appearance, because they saw people looking like their ascendants. They're like, whoa, you know, because you don't look Scorpio rising, you look kind of Scorpio rising. You get that Uranian alien vibe too, you know. It's like, whoa, something about her eyes, you know. It's like, whoa, she's seen into cosmic horizons, you know. Like me, I look.
They would say about me in high school.
Yeah. What'd they say?
I look like an alien.
Yeah. You have an unusual uniqueness about you, you know. And everybody has Uranus in the first house, has that electricity in their aura, you know. And everybody's like, whoa, you're working on a whole different vibration. See, I have Sagittarius rising. I'm the horse, you know, big legs. But I have Venus in the first house. So we're like, you're kind of charming. But my Jupiter, which modifies how you look, is in the 12th house of the mystic, conjunct Neptune, the poet, and it's in the house of dreams, and it's conjunct Mars. So half the time I feel Marsy, like a warrior, rah, football player, and half the time I feel like a mystic and feel blubbery like a whale, just like bleh, floating in the great sea of the cosmos. So I'm like, what am I, a warrior or a mystic? Both. You just accept that you're both.
What about my ascendant and my moon and my south node?
What are you, Pisces rising with a moon?
Pisces rising and my south moon and south node in Pisces.
In the first house?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so there's the first house, and there's Pisces rising, so your Dharma is that unity consciousness, right? And bringing about artistic revelation through visions and art. And
Totally.
yeah, and you got South Node in here?
Yeah.
So it's kind of bizarre. It's like you can't do it on your own, or you're stuck in your past. See, you have to find other people. Your destiny is to find your companions in life to help you do the mission at hand. Because you're learning to move away from instinctual consciousness. You've already mastered that, living off instincts, and now you're going to find some advice from people that know. You know. And when you got moon in here, when the moon's rising, it's like what does the moon govern? Cancer. And what's the principle of Cancer? It's the principle of the mother, unconditional love. It's kind of like Pisces, but it's different. Pisces is like compassion through unconditional love. Moon is like compassion through unconditional love, like the mother's love. Pisces is about unity consciousness of the mystic. There's a difference. They're both water signs, but you'll see next week the difference between Pisces and Cancer.
The Cancers are nice and Pisces are confusing.
Well, that's the difference. That's the shadow sign. But then again, Cancers are the first ones to worry more. You know.
They're manipulative.
Well, they can be emotionally manipulative if they get too worry ward. You know, if they get too, smother mother. That's the moon dark side. Is like you get overprotective, and then you're like smothering the person. Yeah. So moon person, yeah, clingy, definitely, acquisitive. These people can't throw stuff away. Like, come on, clean out the grass. But yeah, the moon rising is just like you're showing moon energy to the people. So when people see you, they see Pisces, the mystic, this real soft, gentle, mystic energy. And then they see moon, more soft, like but more lunar. You know. And when you look at you look sort of like a dreamer, like you're just kind of staring off into space. It's a good thing. It's like that's who you are. Your rising sign shows up right in your percent. Look at Christina. She's Leo rising, you know? She like glows with a nice little. Yeah, Leo glow. Yeah, Leo rising is like. I mean, on the way here, she had the radio on. I was like thinking about what I was going to teach tonight and everything, organizing my class, and she's over there listening to the radio, all these '80s music, and she had her hand up there going. And I was just like, and I went Leo rising. You know? And I'm Sagittarius rising, so if your partner has a fire sign rising like you, and it's different, you kind of jive together, you know. And we're both air signs, so we both got that mental thing. So yeah, so the sun and moon, very powerful. But yeah, you want to channel that moon into the ascendant, which is this point right here in the chart. If you're on the planet.
What did you say? Channel that what energy?
You want to channel that moon energy, what you need. You know, the gift of the soul to find inner peace down deep inside you. And then let that nurture your sun, which is your fuel, your earth to shine. Like me, I'm a Gemini moon, so I like to write and communicate. My sun's in Aquarius, so my fuel is things like astrology and metaphysics, so I write about it. You know what I mean? I communicate about it, and then that leads to my Sagittarius ascendant, which is the philosopher and the faith through divine inspiration. I always tell my Christian friends, you know when it is that I really had faith that there was an eternal being in the universe? When I learned astrology and saw it working with all these people, I was like, that's when I knew there was some divine intelligence guiding the universe. Because how could it not be with this, with this working? So
what did they channel the moon energy to the ascendant?
Yeah, take what you need and let it nourish you, so that you can fuel your purpose, so that you can become your dharma and rise into the truth of your rising sign. So they kind of work together that way. It's a beautiful thing.
The rising signs, whatever's in the first house.
Yeah, whatever sign is cutting that ascendant. Like here's the ascendant. Whatever sign is there, there'll be one of the 12 signs right in there. So that sign's called the rising sign. This line technically is the ascendant. But when usually someone says, "What's your ascendant?" they mean what sign's being cut through that horizon of the east when you were born.
There can be more than one, right?
Well, yeah, sometimes.
Three, I think.
Yeah, whenever you have whenever you have a house, you'll always have a sign in there. Like me, I have Sagittarius here, and then I have Capricorn here. Now, Capricorn is my second house sign, because it's on my cusp, but I do have a lot of Capricorn. There's like 20-something degrees of Capricorn there. So what it is every house is a field of life experience, how you approach the field of life. The first house is you, how you just express yourself outwardly. So how do I express myself? Well, it's interesting. Everybody has two signs. They start off one sign and oscillate to the other, and then they go back and forth. So when someone meets me, they go, "Wow, you're like Mr. Enthusiasm, woohoo!" And then I get real serious on them and have this Capricorn wise conversation. And then I go back to woohoo! And then I go back to, let's talk about something serious here. I kind of do it in this class right now. So when people see me, they see this oscillation between those two signs, right? Every house does that, In my 7th house, I got Gemini there with Cancer. So I got a lot of Cancer in the 7th house. Just 10 degrees of Gemini, the rest is Cancer. So in relationships, I'll be very talkative and communicative, and I'll be more feeling, sensitive, inward, You don't see that side of me unless you're in a relationship. It's like, okay, there's this quiet side to Kelly that's like, goes inward, So, yeah, every house has an oscillation, and sometimes you do have 3. If there's an intercepted sign, where the sign isn't getting cut, then you have 3 ways of being. But mainly the sign on the ascendant is your core outward expression. Why is the word depressed there? Depressed inner peace. So yeah, Mercury's your mind, right? The moon is your heart. These are the contents of the soul right here. This is the human soul right there. You got life force, you've got mind, you've got a heart of the moon, you've got the karma of the past and where you're heading with it, the nodes. You got love. What's a soul without some love, right? Sometimes it gets twisted, and then you become whatever. In this society, it's easy for people to get twisted, and the love inverses. But you also got will, which can inverse too, and become anger or ego or desire. Desire is a beautiful word, Mars, because it comes from the word de-sidir, which means of the stars. The word desire means of the stars. And the understanding is that there's a star out there that symbolizes your true desire. If you point your ship toward it, across the unknown sea, you'll eventually achieve your spiritual destiny that you came here on the planet. And Mars is the key to doing that. Even the Christians will tell you, you have free will.
But not.
As long as you do what we tell you to do, and pay 10% of all your money to us. Okay. So will is important. Mars, willpower and desire. And so Mars would be the urge, psychological urge, to take action. It's what gets you up in the morning, Your desire, on everything. Desire. See, Venus is love. Venus is aesthetics. Venus is your artistic taste. Right? So the way you dress. I got Venus and Sag. Remember I got the comfy clothes on. It's on the Sag. By Venus. And Venus is like athletic views, Let's go hiking. So Venus, Venus and Libra people would be really like graceful people,
Venus and Gemini.
Venus and Gemini, more intellectual. They're going to love, thinking and thought and communication.
Uh-huh.
And in relationships. Yeah.
It's your little constituent.
Christina has Venus in Gemini right where my moon is. That's when we met. I was like, you Venesificate, harmonize my soul, and I nurture your Venus need for more information. So we just like work really well. Sometimes we can't go to sleep at night. So 3 in the morning, we're still talking. Like, maybe we should stop talking.
All right, Venus and Virgo.
Venus and Virgo is, I love to analyze the hell out of everything.
Really?
I love to heal people.
I do that. I always pick the bad boys because I want to fix them.
You want to fix them, yeah. You're good at repair. You're like the plumber, the cosmic plumber. You're like, hi, Mr. Man. It's like something wrong with your plumbing down there. Yeah, you're like, hey, is there something wrong with your plumbing? And you're like, my plumbing's fine. You're like, next guy. You know, because you're like the Venus Vestal Virgin. You know, Virgo's the Vestal, priestess that tends the sacred fire, and you have to devote yourself to a craft of service. And when you're doing that,
I was wondering if you could be like a sexual healer. I
can.
actually thought
that was a job.
That would be a great job for me.
People still do it.
Thinking about it.
People still do it. In ancient times, the Vestal virgins, back then a virgin wasn't someone who hadn't had sex. The word virgin was a title that meant a woman unto herself, who could step out of that patriarchal tribal clan and actually work at the temple, actually initiating men into their sexuality, and doing the rituals, and doing the sacred work of burning those fires and keeping that goddess connection alive. So yeah, back in the old days, that was a profession.
It was called a prostitute.
Yeah. Then it went downhill after that.
What about the first young one? Because like all the ones nowadays are the older, like Dr. Sue and Dr. Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth, yeah. Yeah,
Dr. Ruth's our version of the sacred Venus Vestal. Somebody talking about sex, and everybody's like, yeah.
What about Venus and Scorpio?
Venus and Scorpio. It's like your love nature is in the sign of death and rebirth. So it means that you love to die. It means you love to be reborn, to rise out of the ashes. Love is like a phoenix for you. It's like if you fall in love, you're going to be transformed, going beyond form. So Venus and Scorpio are like two snakes wrapped around each other. They got this kundalini connection, and they're just like deep, mysterious love. The love nature of the alchemist. So love alchemically transforms you. So it's powerful, and so your artistic tastes are going to be deeper. You want more mystery, because Venus and Scorpio is in love with the great mystery. So in ancient times, you could just go to Mitsuri, because Mitsuri was the Hebrew name for the word Egypt. So they called Egypt Mitsuri. So you could go to the mystery. Just go down there, get initiated in the pyramid, be good. So yeah, Venus is love. And Venus is how you need to be loved and want to love. So, like my Venus is in Sag, I need an adventure. I need it to be inspiring. For my first wife had Venus in Scorpio. And I was just like, she had 5 planets in Scorpio. She's always depressed all the time. And I was like, why are you so depressed? And I was like the highest inspired, uplifted person, and she was like the lowest depressed person. That's probably why we got together, we were like opposites. Just like show each other the other side. I was like, okay, I can go deep. But then she couldn't go high. Sometimes she could. Or you end up splitting it. But aesthetics, artistic taste, dress, how you need to be loved, because it felt like she was my sister, Her moon was on my ascendant, and I was like, wow, we're like family. Like, this is incestual. Gotta go. Alright, so, so how you need to be loved. That's a good translation of Venus. And when I say that, I mean look at the sign, look at the house, look at the, like my Venus is in the first house. Didn't someone else have Venus in the first house there? I forgot who. Oh.
Oh, no, never mind. That's moon.
Okay. That's moon, yeah. Well, Venus, so Venus by its house shows where you want to spread a vibration of love, It's just really beautiful harmony, Venus. Mine's in the first house. People are like, you really love yourself, don't you? I say, yeah. I said, it's fun being me. People see my chart at the conferences, they go, Kelly, let me see your chart. They look at it like, wow, it must be fun being you. I'm like, pretty much. So, even astrologers look at my chart like, dang. So, it is fun, But I'm like a big kid, I got South Node and Leo. Many past lives of playing, So, when you get out to Sirius is about abundance. Abundance. fertility. So you got to find out where your Ceres or Ceres is in your chart to show where there's a hidden current of abundance. It also has this theme of release and return. Remember, Ceres had to let go of her daughter to the underworld, and then she returned. Like in my chart, just to give you an example, I have Ceres in the 5th house. So what does that tell you in terms of children? Oh, guess what? My kid, he goes away for 6 months, literally down into the underworld, down the hill into Charlotte, hangs out with his mom and his stepdad, who are both Scorpios. So he goes out, hangs out in the underworld for 6 months, and then he comes back. So talk about a release and return theme in my 5th house of children. Literally, And I've seen this. People have Ceres in the 7th house. They'll have relationships that they have a relationship that's really deep for 6 months, and then it goes away. And then that person comes back 6 months later. They're like, it's like, why do we have this cycle? Can't we just be together all the time? No. If you do, you'll ruin it. Ceres is like, you got to have that nice flow. So astrology kind of makes us more sane because we understand why we're so weird. It's pretty cool. And, some people have Ceres in the 10th house of career. And they do 2 different jobs a year. For 6 months, they'll do one thing. And then they'll just shift gears and do something else for 6 months. Then they'll come back and cycle back around to the other thing. So, Demeter, she's always letting go. It always comes back. So abundance. My abundance is in the 5th house. So whatever house it's in for you, that's where you're going to have fertility and abundance. Mine's in my house of children. Creativity. Just by having a kid, I got rich. Might not mean money coming to me, but it meant more richness in my life, more grain goddess abundance, more fertility. So creativity is where if I use my creativity, money will come. It just flows that way.
Does it necessarily mean children if it's in the 5th house? Could it be like
no? It could be. Look what sign it's in. Like mine's in Taurus, so it's in by being productive, being in nature, and being creative. So abundance comes. So yeah, you want to make money through having fun, recreation. It supports that sacred prostitute job.
I know, right? So it's 5th. This is what's confusing me. Like 5th house is Leo, but then it's also Libra too. So it's got a lot going on.
Well, the 5th house is the house of Leo.
Okay.
But don't think of 5th house as Leo because they are different. Think of 5th house as it's like those affinities. It sort of has an affinity with a sign. But Leo is the archetype of the king, of the performer, of the noble. Whereas the 5th house is the expression of that creativity and action. The 5th house is the experience of play, fun, recreation, all those things. Whenever there's a new moon in Libra, in fall, that's your biggest month of play. Because if you don't recharge your play batteries in, your inner child is going to go depressed. You got every time the sun goes into Libra, 10 days in, it's like, whoa, it's time to play. That's your big play season. Mine's in May because my Taurus is over there. So everybody has a different season to play. There's a season to love, a season to this, season to that.
What's the season to play?
Whenever the new moon, so you remember the sun meets the moon, right? Every month in a different house. And then next month, and next month, next month. So when the sun and moon meet in the 7th house, it's the season of love for you. You're planting new seed in the house of love. So that 6 months later, when the sun gets over here and the full moon comes in there will be fulfillment. That flowering will happen, and that love will be fulfilled. So the 5th house is the house of play. So whenever the sun and moon get together over here, and it just depends on your chart. If you have Taurus here, it'll be May. She has Libra there, so it's fall. So it all depends on what sign's over in the 5th house. And then 6th house is back to work. 6th house is service, work, skills, training, humble employment. So when you get back to the new moon in the 6th house, it's time to get back to work. The 8th house is the house of change, Scorpio. So it has an affinity to that sign. So every year we all have a month when the new moon's in our 8th house. Like I have Cancer on the cusp. So for me, it's coming right up because it's the month of July. June 21st to July 21st. So when the sun and moon get together in there, new moon in there, in the house of death and rebirth, that's your month of transformation and rising out of the ashes. That's when you are the phoenix reborn, And that's the only month of the year where you get to take out all the psychological garbage that you've been accumulating. The cans are full, And that's the month you get to take out the garbage and just purge, change, move the furniture out, do something. It's about rebirthing, changing, everything. And your mind. Mercury went through there and went retrograde. It's like sweeping double time. Sweeping, yeah. What?
So how do you find out when your sun's going to be somewhere?
Okay, the sun goes around the chart in a very natural pattern. It goes into Aries in the spring. So because your Aries is over here, that means springtime is the season of love for you. 7th house is love. Relationships. Fall is more focused on self-development, right? Because you have Libra in the 1st house. So you have Libra rising. That means Venus is your ruling planet. Whatever planet governs the ascendant is you. And your Venus is in Aries. The opposite signs. You're like opposite to yourself. But this means you have 2 sides. Actually, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides because you have 3 planets rising. So your personality is very complex. People see it, they go, whoa. She's got Mars rising, and it's in Libra. It's in a sign that's like, feels kind of like, what am I doing here? But it's the will of the artist. And then Venus is in Aries sign. So it's like the love nature of the daredevil, you know. It's not exciting from week to week. You're going to run off to initiate new romances.
You can't like the nice guy.
Yeah. So, and then Saturn's rising, which makes you feel like an old man when you're young, but then when you get old, you feel young.
Oh, wow.
It's like it's like life put a lot of pressure and responsibility on you right up front. And then Pluto's there rising, the face of death. So when you walk around, you're like her, Scorpio rising, just you bring change into people's life. Because you got the planet of change right up in your face in your 1st house. So people see you, they go, whoa, planet of transformation. You're a transformer. You can step energy up and down. So yeah, you just look where your Aries is, and that'll be the spring. And then whenever the sun goes through Taurus in the May, that's when you're going to go through your little psychic rebirth. And then 9th house, Gemini, right now is your time to start studying a new subject because it's the house of higher education. It's like you're in this class. And your Mercury in here. And actually, Mercury was on your Mercury when the class started last week. So it was like you were ready to learn. You're like, my brain windows are open. We did spring cleaning up in here last month. We're ready to go. So you know.
And she was the only one that didn't sign up ahead of time too. That was that she just showed up that night and was like, I knew I had to be here.
Yeah. And so you can just see, you know, how things work. You know, when it's winter, you need to be focused inward, home. When it's fall or summer, you need to be out there in the world doing stuff. You know. So that's how you see. You got yours, or are you so confused?
I don't know. I'm kind of going out of.
Let me see. Okay.
I think you're telling us where it is, but you're not telling us how to figure out like.
Well, you just look to see what signs the sun's in. So like right now the sun's in Gemini. Okay. So it's time to rebirth your home, move the furniture around because this month is about new moon in the 4th house of home, renew your home. You know. And then here's a dog. 4th house governs dogs. You know, having domestic pets. You know.
Code is right on time.
Yeah, that was like the symbol, right on time there. Next month, you got your foundation all set up. Next month, the sun gets to 10 degrees Cancer, and you have to have an ephemeris to know exactly where. Or go on astro.com and look, see where the transits are. And we'll talk about transits later. But when the sun gets there, it's like bam! It's time for a new moon in the 5th house. Play, fun, creativity, joy, radiance. And then it'll be time to find a job the next month after that in August in Leo. That's about service and work.
And is the new moon when the sun and the moon are joined together?
Yeah.
So if like the sun's in Gemini and then you wait to hear or see when the moon's in Gemini that month.
Yeah. Every calendar has a big black circle right there on the day it happens. Yeah, that's the day. And that's the new moon. And on astrology calendars, they actually tell you the degree. So you can actually look see what house it's in. And what else was I going to say? When the new moon is in the 6th house, since this is Ojai, right? One World Healing Arts Institute. The new moon in the 6th house is about the time of healing. You know, healing. It's like if you do a fast when the new moon's in the 6th house, it'll be 12 times more effective, or at least 11 times, than any other month of the year when the moon's in the 6th house and the sun together. Because it'll clean out easier. You know, you'll. It's just a month to get healthy. You know.
Like to quit smoking?
Any kind of thing, yeah. One of the best times to quit smoking is when there's a lunar eclipse, because the moon is your habit. And when the moon gets blocked out by the Earth and disappears for a day, that's the best day to break a habit. Because suddenly the habit planet, moon, is blocked out by the sun. Well, it happens twice a year, you know, the solar eclipse.
I just quit. Like, it was so easy. It was so easy. Yeah. Like, when that's not true. Well, 1 to 2 days was bad, but not like Yeah, like there was 2 days. That's really
2 days, yeah.
A lunar or a solar eclipse?
Yeah, well, lunar eclipse for habits. Solar eclipse is when the sun and moon get together on the nodes, and within 12 degrees of nodes, so the moon gets in front of the sun and blocks it out, and there's a shadow cast on the earth. Solar eclipse just intensifies that new moon in whatever house it's happening in. 3 times stronger than normal. So, when there's a solar eclipse, the universe is saying, you need to really renew this area of your life. You look what house it's happening in and go, okay. That's why you need to learn the houses, because that's where it has meaning to your life. That's why I could say, like, hey, it's a season of love when autumn rolls around, because the new moon's in the sign of Libra. And so, for me, that's my 10th house. So when you're renewing your love, I'm renewing my career, because it's my 10th house. So it all depends on where you are. But anyway, on to more planets. So yeah, Mars is interesting when it moves, because Mars is like a little new moon all by itself. Mars is about action and initiation, right? Initiation. So where Mars go, remember Mars is hot and dry, so it fires things up, it heats things up. It says, come on, let's get things motivated. So the theory is to motivate. And remember, Mars is the masculine essence, and Venus is the feminine. And the cool thing is that we all have both within us. Every man needs to get in touch with his inner Venus and have a relationship with that inner feminine. And every woman has to have a relationship with their inner Mars. Well, don't have to, but if they do, they'll find their relationships work out a lot better. Because then their inner partner isn't trying to sabotage things because they're not being paid attention to anymore. What happens is in love, you fall in love and you start putting all this energy into this person. And that, like, let's say you're a woman and there's a man. So suddenly, now that man is like, or another woman, whatever, is your focus of love, the inner lover gets neglected on some level. And about 6 months down the road, it starts fighting back, to reclaim you. So it's important to really nurture your relationship with your opposite half. And just role play that you have a relationship with this inner person. Because, dang, things work out better in relationships when you have that connection, So, Jupiter, faith. Jupiter is about belief systems, over religion. And when I say religion, Jupiter shows you what kind of by a sign and house, what kind of religions right up your alley. If someone has Jupiter in Taurus, they're going to have like faith in nature. They're going to be like, wow, I need some earth religions. Jupiter has, people with Jupiter in Sag, like me, we have these big old philosophical, inspirational religions, We're like into studying like Buddhism and foreign cultures, Taoism and even Christianity, at least the mystical elements of it.
Jupiter and Leo?
Jupiter and Leo is faith through fun. It's like faith in creativity. Creativity is your religion. If God's a creator and you want to be one with God, you got to be creative. Right? It's the highest unity with the creator is to be creative. So I always say faith and creativity. So it's like very childlike, like the Indians came up with the concept of why did God create the universe? And the only answer they could give was the greatest sages said because God's like a child playing, and they made a word called Leela up, and they call it God's play. So that's kind of like creative belief through play. And as we go further out this way, these planets are more important by their house than their sign.
From Jupiter on?
From Jupiter on out. The reason why is because they're generational. Everybody born in the same year had Jupiter in the same sign. Everybody born in the same 2.5 years has Saturn in the same sign. Everybody born in the same 7 years has Uranus. 12 to 20, Pluto. So, these are generational planets. So everybody starts to have the same makeup. Although there are differences. What's really cool is when you see people interacting with differences. I mean, if educators knew how to educate, first they would look at the kids' Mercury in the 3rd house and say, okay, this is how they learn. And look, this crop of kids that just came in this year, well, they have a whole different growth pattern, a whole different inspirational pattern, and they have a whole different model of power and how they need to be organized. Educators could totally reform education and make whole human beings come out of their educational system. through this.
Can you repeat that statement? These planets are more influenced by their house? Is that what
Yeah, these planets all the way out to Pluto. The further you go in the solar system, the deeper level of consciousness you go, the slower the planet gets, the more people have the same planet in the same sign. So there's no differentiation, you know. So you have more importance by house. In other words, like if I look at my Uranus, it's in Libra. Everybody born from 71 to 77 had Uranus in Libra. Well, not 71, 70. It went in, because I have it at 13 degrees, so it was like probably like 69 to 75, right around there, you know. So that 7 years had Uranus in Libra. So we're all revolutionary artists and lovers, you know. We're all looking for freedom through love, you know. Freedom within love. Can I be myself in love or not? Can I be original and authentic in love? If I can't, I don't want to be in it, you know. So we're redefining the relationship paradigm. Our parents had Neptune in Libra. They had all these illusions about love. The man's up here, the woman's down here, you know. They had all these paradigms of somebody's got to be the martyr, you know. And like they had illusions about love, you know. And so they idolized love. And so our generation came along revolutionizing love. So we're like blowing their paradigm out of the water, like, what are these young people doing? And then the generation right after us that came in 72 has Pluto in Libra. So they're really destroying 72. Yeah, Pluto went into Libra in 72. And because I was born in 71 and I have a 29 Virgo, so it went into next year. And so Pluto and Libra, that generation's really, that's Generation X. They're just like, I mean, they're a generation of transformative artists and lovers. They're here to experience death and rebirth through love. That's why all these young people are like, God, what's going on in love? It's so different. It's so raw. It's so transformational.
Is that where the whole metrosexual thing came up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, that term was just recently coined because of that generation.
Yeah, that generation.
What is metrosexual?
It means like the femininity and the masculinity is kind of blurs. Like guys wearing earrings and women, like the masculine is becoming more feminine and the feminine is more.
Yeah, I was in the first wave of that. You know, in high school. Yeah, when I was in high school, I remember my girlfriend, we were into the Cure, she'd paint my nails, I'd show up to football practice with eyeliner, my coach would make me run laps, I'd be like, you're not getting it, life is changing, you know, it'll all be different. And by the way, the moon's in Gemini tonight, we need to throw the ball, it's an air sign, because if we don't, we're going to lose again. They were free, don't talk about that astrology stuff to me. But then he started listening, because one game I was like, you know that third string running back, I know you think I'm crazy. And I'm a cosmic mystic tuned into craziness. But check it out, it's real. This guy who's a third string running back, he's got Mars rising in his chart. Tonight at the game at like 8:30, like in the third quarter, Mars is rising in the east. Put him in. I'm testing you here. Put him in and see what happens. And tell me I'm crazy. Watch. And he said, okay, we're going to show you how crazy you are, you know? So they put him in and BAM! Touchdown! Like a 60-yard touchdown. I was like, see? And by my senior year, he was doing guided spiritual visualizations to spiritual music with the rest of the team. Reading books like Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Yeah. And we went to the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. So, you know, astrology was like, I'm going to make a whole movie about that called Satori High. About gaining enlightenment on the football field. Yeah, it's about tantric sex, astrology, and metaphysics, and football. But it should be fun. But anyway, Saturn. So Jupiter shows we're here to grow. You know? We're here to inspire. So I just oscillated between Sag and Capricorn right there. Get back to series. So grow and inspire. So planet of growth. Jupiter is the planet of prosperity. You know? Jupiter says, yes, I can. Why do you think Barack Obama is so inspiring? He's got his Mercury in Leo, the sign of the performer, opposing Jupiter in Aquarius. The planet of prosperity and confidence and the sign of humanity. And he's got this amazing speaking gift because of it. And Saturn's there too, but in Capricorn. So he can speak to the conservatives and the liberals, and he can inspire them through his creative performance, and he's got this amazing opposition in his chart. That's his speaking gift, you know. Plus he's got a moon in Gemini. So he can think fast how to speak.
So opposition facilitates energy?
Yeah, well, opposition is tension for reconciliation, bring them together. It's a controversy, but that needs to be reconciled by bringing it together. So it's tension, but once you work it out. See, in astrology, you'll have one planet over here and one planet over there. So let's say, like in Barack's case, he had Mercury and Jupiter. all right, the tendency in an individual is to repress one side, usually the deeper planets, because you're not able to deal with that yet. So he was probably a big ham growing up, Mercury and Leo. Humorous, comedian, But then when he started developing his Jupiter, Jupiter governs law. He was a lawyer. Jupiter governs higher education. He went to college. And, all this stuff. And then he went to foreign lands, right? So Jupiter he was going to foreign lands when he was little. So Jupiter was being activated at a young age for him. So he was able to bring this together, and out of the opposition came this amazing gift of inspiring people through inspiration, Jupiter, inspiration through Mercury, communication. So, he turned his tension into a very beautiful thing. It's really hard when you got a square between like two personal planets, like Mercury and the Moon, and then let's say this is a guy. Usually the guy's going to repress his feelings, right? And he's going to be all intellect and logic. And so that's a really hard one because oh my God, you've been repressing your feelings your whole life, and then midlife crisis comes at 40, and you're like, oh my God, I have a heart. And it comes, all this unconscious material comes bursting back in. Or, like a Pluto transit will go by the Moon and just open this wound right up, And so what happens is there's a square, a challenge between what he feels and what he thinks. And so it's hard to you're going to have a lot of energy leaks in your aura because you're feeling one thing and thinking something square to it. It's always conflicting within you. Until you accept both sides of yourself, and say, okay, I got this Moon in this sign that needs this kind of expression. I got this Mercury this sign that needs a different, and I need to schedule into my life room for both. Once you do that, your whole chart wakes up. You see the spiritual village of you coming into action, and you're giving energy to each character in the village, and then you become more whole. You're like, wow, I'm online. Like all my gifts are online, Or even if you just have a square between Moon and Mars, what you feel is always squaring to what you want to do. So you might feel one thing, but always doing another thing. And that's creating an energy leak in your aura. You got to heal that. Or you got Mercury square to Mars. So what you do is always square to what you think. So you think one thing, but you would do another thing. So we're going to study aspects next time, or the time after. But for now, we'll go back to these planets. It's just an example of how they interact. Aspects are the glue. The conversation that's happening between the planets. It's like, what would it be if you go to a movie with no dialogue? It's just kind of one of those silent movies from the 20s. So life needs dialogue, and so the aspects of the dialogue. Actually, the word aspect comes from the Latin aspectus, which means to glance at another. So really, planets are just glancing around the chart going, hey, we got a square. Saturn, karma. Saturn's the time lord. You're doing time here. Saturn is pressure. But Saturn is wisdom. Everybody wants it, but nobody wants to work hard. Saturn's hard work. Discipline. It comes from the word disciple. What are you a disciple of? What are you devoted to? Commitment. Everybody wants it, but nobody wants to do it. So, Saturn is structure. Organization. Integrity. All these words are Saturn words. I give them to you because Saturn just has a bad rap, and I want to give you some good rap, So, just because Saturn's pressure doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes you need that pressure. Sometimes you need a good Saturn crossing your sun sign to get you organized in terms of how you're shining. Remember? Earth to shine? Sometimes you need a good Saturn aspect in your chart to ground you. Like I had Saturn square my sun when I was born. Saturn square to sun. So that was a conflict. You think I was conflicting with authorities a little bit? Whether they were football coaches, alcoholic fathers, whoever, it's just like, I was a rebel without a cause, And then when I found my cause, I didn't need to rebel anymore. I became my own authority. I integrated Saturn. See, you got to integrate these planets to grow whole, to hold us. And then the squares turn into your greatest gifts. Squares and oppositions, they're like mines full of coal that need to be turned into diamonds, But it takes time. Saturn, time. It takes 30, after 30, squares and oppositions start becoming gifts. if you've been working on them, you know. And trines are natural gifts, spiritual gifts from the past. And they become lazy if you don't, you know, focus on them. You know, they can make you so good at something that you don't even try. You're like, oh, I'm just naturally good at that, so I won't even try. And everybody's like, dude, you're wasting your talent. So Saturn, whatever house it's in, it's where you're going to experience the most bliss in life. But not till a lot of hard work is done. You know, Saturn says, I really want to deal with this karma. I always call it karmic residue on the bathtub of your soul. You got to clean that bathtub. Nobody wants to clean the shower. Who wants to get in there and scrub? You know, Saturn says, whatever house I'm in, you got to get in there and scrub. You got to get in there and like do some hard work, organize. You know,
in the 12th house.
Oh yeah, that's the house of God. That's about the house of direct connection with the infinite, house of dreams, the house of escapism, fantasy, isolation, imprisonment, just all those feelings of you just going inward and feeling that connection with the divine. And so it's the house of dreams and compassion. So if you work hard in that area, like let's say you have a dream and you want to crystallize it, you know, so it shows you have karma with God in the past life. It's like there's a pressure there, you know, like something was disconnected about your relationship with the divine. In this lifetime, you're working 10 times harder to craft that connection so that you can heal this karma and be integrated again, you know. Because there's karma with things like escapism, like the smoking. So letting go of habits like that are just escapisms to not deal with what's really going on. It's like, oh wow, I'm dealing with my karma here. Mine's in the 5th house of children. 5th house. And I have a child that has 6 planets in Capricorn. So Saturn child came into my life. So I'm dealing with that. He's my karma, you know. And karma doesn't have to be bad. Karma is good. Karma, you could have saved someone's life in the past, and now he came as my kid. Said, you know what, I want to hang out with you for life. You saved me, thank you. You know? And we're having a great time, you know? So don't think of karma as like a bad, even as a negative thing. My karma ran over my dogma, whatever the boomer sticker is. But think of it as karma can be good, you know? You do a good deed. It's just the law of cause and effect. You know, it's like, okay, you're putting out a vibration in the universe. It's going to grow and expand and come back and hit you in another life. I always think of it as like when you do a good deed, help someone, it's like a vibration. It goes out into the universe. It goes all the way to the end of the universe. And then it reflects and comes back. And the whole time it's just picking up strength. And in your next life, when you come into a new body and you're on another planet, somewhere in another galaxy, it comes back, goes BAM! And just like cracks you in the side. And sometimes it's a good thing, like, whoa, $20 on the ground. Yahoo! And then another time it's like, oh man, car accident. So that's my view of it anyway. So Chiron is the healing planet. Chiron is where you're broken. Where's a wound. But it's where you can contact your inner teacher too. Chiron is where you can. I'm going to put Chiron over here. Chiron is about overcoming adversity to realize destiny. Remember, Chiron is the rainbow bridge. Chiron is the mentor, like Yoda, that comes along and says, "Do you want to go into the transcendent states and learn about the Force?" You know, Chiron's Mr. Miyagi that says, "Daniel-san, go paint the fence, and I'll teach you karate." And then he paints the fence, and then he washes the cars, and then he gets all pissed off. Says, "You're not showing me any karate. I've been out here doing all this work for you, old man, and blah blah blah." And he starts walking off, you know, the young rebellious youth, and he goes, "Daniel-san, paint the fence." And he starts painting the fence, you know. He goes, "No, in the air." And he like throws a punch, whoosh, and he blocks it. He's like, "I've been teaching you karate all along," you know. And that's what Chiron's all about. The Zen master who shows you the deepest spiritual principles through simplicity and sacred service, you know. So Chiron is your sacred service. Not everybody's ready for Chiron. I don't always talk about Chiron in the chart because not everybody's ready for sacred service. Some people just want to eat and take up space and enjoy life, you know. This is hard work when you go past Chiron. And Chiron's house shows you what field of life experience that you can go into deeper levels of teaching. For me, it's in my 4th house, so it's home and family and roots. My dad was alcoholic. I had to come to terms with that, heal that, and now I have my own family and I have my own kid, and I'm not an alcoholic, so isn't that great, you know? I'm like a spiritual, inspirational guy. And my kid like loves playing video games with me because I'm like, come on, kid, let's play. And I got a house with a beautiful woman here, and we just like have it's a healing of that energy because I stepped across that Chiron divine. And it's in Aries, so I did. I studied warrior martial arts, you know. So it's like it helped me all that. So your sign of Aries, the sign's very important to accessing the inner teacher, whatever sign it's in. But the house is where it needs to happen. Whoever had Chiron in the 7th house? Yeah, so relationships is where you can be the guide. Chiron's the guide, the inner guide. And so when you get in touch with that inner teacher, which is the voice of intuition that guides you, and you come home from work one day and you get this intuition that says you need to go downtown, and you don't even want to because you're tired. That's your inner voice saying, trust it. And you go downtown and you meet your new best friend or whatever. It's like when you trust those intuitive hunches and you're in tune with this inner guide, that's Chiron. To really be attuned to them when Chiron's crossing something. Like this whole last year, Chiron was crossing my sun sign. And my sacred service, I made a film for my astrology community. It was a sacred service thing, Put a lot of hard work into that. Because Chiron's very Virgo. It's very like the sacred servant, the healer. And it's a shaman energy too. So Chiron's about Native American, shamanistic sort of the ability to take on the pain of the tribe and transform it back into pure light energy.
So if it's in the 11th house, then that's like the tribe.
Yeah, you're here to heal the tribe, the cosmic clique. So you're gonna have a lot of friends who are healers.
Where am I every day?
Yeah, because the 11th house is your cosmic clique. These are the people I like to hang out with. Just by hanging out with these people, I'm gonna have more color, more texture of my true authentic self. So you need Chiron people around you. What signs it in?
Aries.
Yeah, so healers and warriors, pioneers, cutting edge healers are your friends.
Mine's in Aries too.
Yours in Aries?
What about Chiron and...
Yours in the 6th, the House of Healing. Look at you, Miss Healing Arts Institute. She's a pioneer in Aries, but hers is in Aries, but she's pioneering through doing 6th house. Virgo. Virgo, the 6th house is about being like the secretary, the organizer, the analyzer, but also the sacred servant and doing healing in the world. And so.
What about Chiron in Taurus?
Well, in Taurus, it's faith, or it's Chiron is healing through nature. But what house is it in? 2nd house. So it's healing your self-worth, your sense of psychological belonging, like your sense of value on the planet. And showing people the value in healing nature. A reverence for nature, just a reverence for simplicity. And everybody's talking about simplicity these days, But does everybody really want it, It's like, you have to cultivate that as a value. And then that'll be like, the inner teacher in you will rise up. Christina has Chiron in Taurus, in the 10th house. She's a massage therapist. The healer through touch in the house of career. She goes, it's so weird, I go and rub people all day long. But it heals her in the process.
So in the 7th house, it's
love.
About healing personal relationships.
Yeah,
Between other people, not necessarily.
Yeah, you can be the guide in relationships.
Well, I mean, like in my family, it's like these sisters aren't getting along with each other, and these sisters aren't getting along with each other, and it's like I'm like helping them work their stuff out between.
Yeah, because the 7th house governs other people in general. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it's more 4th house, it's more family specific. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in general, you're always going to be a healing force in your relationships. It's kind of not
in my personal
your personal one-on-one with others, friendships, business partnerships. There's always Chiron issues. So if you want to have a great relationship, you will have a relationship with people that have a sacred service to do. Because then they can do their sacred service, you can do your sacred service, and everybody be happy. At least everybody needs to honor that you have a sacred work to do. Mm-hmm. And that work is, whatever it is that you're about. You get up in the morning, you do it. What's yours?
I'm in the 8th house.
Oh, 8th house. Ooh. That's like the sexual healing zone, because the 8th house is about like, I've been betrayed in the house of intimate contact with others, or other people's money, like big resources, big power, money. So yeah, it's about personal power, sexuality, root chakra energies, Chiron's down there saying, look, you need to heal this area. Sacred medicine man is down there in the root chakra. Say, there needs to be some overcoming adversity to realize your destiny there. In the 8th house of overcoming or of transforming and rebirthing. So there's a rebirthing theme there with Chiron. So anyway, Chiron Once you do open up Chiron, then you're ready for the outer 3 planets. Uranus, divine mind. Neptune, divine love. Pluto, divine will. Just real quick, Uranus is intuition. And a key word for it, it's kind of humorous in the chart to tell someone, is that wherever Uranus is, that's where you're original. Or another word for it is weird. It's funny when you get to that. I like it when I get to Uranus in the chart. I'm like, okay, here's where you're bizarre. Here's where you're strange. Here's where you're the alien, you know? So there's an alienness to this. Neptune is where you need to dream. That's where your dream is. Where you need to fantasize. But without idolizing. You know, it's easy to idolize Neptune. Because Neptune's very full of glamour. Like the little fairy sprites that cast glamours on you. It's about enchantment. That's where you need to find enchantment. But without getting lost in the fog. There's usually a lot of fog where Neptune is by house. An illusion. You're not seeing with clear eyes in the house that Neptune is in. So you have to kind of work through some illusions in that area. Like me, I have Neptune in the house of Neptune, the 12th house. The realm of illusion. So that gives you, that grants you with a really vivid imagination. I'm a poet. I write fantasy adventure novels. So I actually embraced it. I said, you know what? I'm going to go off into the fantasy. I'm going to write novels about sprites and elves and wizards and dragons and heroes. So I really embraced that whole archetypal realm because I have Neptune in there. Conjunct Jupiter, the planet of the quest, and Mars, the hero on the quest. So I really went into that, you know. So Neptune's really strong for me because my ruling planet Jupiter is aligned with Neptune. So sometimes people have a strong Neptune. Sometimes Neptune will just be sitting off in Timbuktu in the country, in the church, in the country, and people don't really relate to it much because they're not ready for that level of divine love. Neptune's when your heart opens up and you feel unified with the whole cosmos, the whole universe, you know.
If it's in your life calling house.
Yeah, you work with Neptune. Film, arts, visionary arts, you know. Photography, marine biology, ocean. Neptune's the god of the sea. You need to bring Neptune into your career to appease that force. So you got to work with it. If it's angular, you kind of have to work with it. You know? if it's in the first house, the 4th house, the 7th house, you know, one of these houses here, that's called angular. We're gonna learn about that next time. You know, these are called succedent. These second houses, and then these are called cadent. They're the weaker houses.
Those are the ones you had a circle.
Yeah, last time, yeah. Yeah, 1, 4, 7, and 10. So basically, if it's angular, like Neptune's rising in someone's chart, they gotta deal with that in this lifetime. That planet's 3 times stronger than any other planet in the chart because it's rising and they're embodying it. If it's in your first house, you're embodying it, you know? It's in your body. And so...
What was that you said about opening the heart to the universe?
Neptune is about opening the heart to divine love. See, remember, it's the only symbol where matter goes into mind. So it's like dreams, the planet of dreams. So you have a dream where Neptune is. You know, and usually with Neptune, it's a mass thing. Neptune's about what do you call those things? Fads, or you know what's in style. Trends on the mass level. Like when everybody's doing the Macarena, you know, Neptune was doing something on this guy. You know, because Neptune shows. Okay, just an example. When Neptune was in Scorpio in the '60s, the way people dressed was really like raw, really like Neptune and Scorpio. You know. What did they idolize? Sexuality, change, we want change, you know. So the 60s generation was intense. People born in that time have that in them. It was happening during that time. When Neptune went into Sagittarius in the 70s, things chilled out. Everybody's talking about Zen, foreign religions from afar, you know. India, let's go to India on a spiritual quest. Because Neptune went into the sign of foreign lands. And people that have a lot of Sagittarius, how were they dressing? You know, disco, colorful clothes, you know. It's like, woo, the 70s. And now the reason we're having a retro because Neptune is in Aquarius, sextiling back to that time, so that time could flow to this time, you know. And so when Neptune went into Capricorn in the '80s, what was it? Women wearing power suits, Reaganomics, you know. It's like, oh my God, down with the Democrats, up with the
pads.
pinstripes, shoulder pads. It was like, what happened to the disco clothes, you know? And then in 1998, Neptune went into Aquarius, so now the fashions for now until 2012. Are just like the more alien and the more shocking and the more you can be unpredictable and techno, the more better. You know, it's like, oh God. So now it's like the fashions are just weird.
People are wearing their electronics.
Yeah. They're wearing their electronics. Good idea. Yeah, because they're all.
Their cell phone strap here, their iPod.
Yeah. My kid.
Their ear. Like.
He's got his PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
He's got a laptop in his backpack. Yeah. So literally, people are wearing their electronics. That's a good observation. I never thought of that.
Wow.
But it's totally cool. Yeah, Neptune's in Aquarius. And that one of the that's the word, fashions. The fashions, you know. Because Neptune is about the mass imagination, right? It's like, whoa, what are people imagining right now? So you can imagine when Chiron conjuncts Neptune, it's going to be a great healing of the collective imagination, the collective dream. And this is happening in 2012. That's what the Mayan calendar people aren't telling you about because they don't really know astrology. But Neptune and Chiron are lining up in the last degrees of Aquarius. That's where the age of Aquarius starts because the ages move backwards in the signs. So right at the point of the age of the Aquarius entrance, Neptune's aligning with Chiron. The last time these guys aligned was in 1946. Right after a great war that ended in 1945. So now another great war is about to end. And so these planets are lining up to bring a healing across the country. Healing of religious perspectives this time. So there's going to be a lot of cultural breakthroughs that are going to bring a healing through religious unity. Because people are going to realize finally, you know what? We can keep killing each other and bombing each other and fighting over the same old crap. Or we can create a universal religion that has all the core principles, like love your enemy, or love your neighbor, love your enemy, all those things, you know. And then have all these cool cultural diversifications, expressions, and just respect. You know, that's the only way we're going to get through this, you know, Chiron, Neptune.
2012?
Yeah.
That's not far at all.
Yeah, 2012. Into the Mayan calendar.
4 years.
So, isn't the Mayan calendar was based on astrology?
Well, it is, but it's based on Mayan astrology, not Western Hellenistic, Greek, Babylonian astrology. But yeah, it's cool, though, when you look at the correlations between the two, you know. So yeah, so Neptune's your dream. It's where you need to float off, you know. The reason we're going a little fast is we took that break. I got to make up for that break. If you want a break, you're going to sit here longer.
All we have left is Pluto.
Yeah, all we got left is Pluto.
Oh, that's a big one. Just divine what?
Pluto is divine will. Pluto's about transformation.
No, just squeezing in.
You sure?
And usually if something needs to change, that means because you're expressing the shadow side of it. Pluto's about facing the shadow. It's sort of the spark of your immortality.
Oh, sorry.
The part of you that will never die. The spark of immortality. Within each of us there is a strand of dark matter. A strand of universal core Plutonian essence that will never die. You know, my kid wrote a poem about it called "But Wait." It's called "But Wait" with an exclamation mark after the end. But wait, he goes, "The dreams of fire are young when they are first born. Who are you in this world? You're not only who you think you are, but you are also a different person. But wait, your other person will never die. I'm about to live tonight." He writes these very Zen poems, you know, little enlightened kid. So transformation, feeling, facing the shadow, all the re-words, rebirthing, recycling, renewal, any re-word you think of, regeneration, that's a Pluto word. Because re means you got to go back over it. There's collective shadow material there. Remember when I told you last time about the Star Wars analogy? The sun will be the hero, Luke Skywalker, Venus, the princess, in love with who? Han Solo, Mars, the hero's sidekick. If this is Long Ranger, that's Tonto. You know, you got everybody here. Mercury, communication droid, C-3PO. He's kind of lunar too. He's like always worried about R2. He's very moon mother. R2. Uranus is very R2. He's like the radical droid. You never know what he's going to do next. Chiron's like Obi-Wan or Yoda, you know, the mentor. Saturn's like the Empire. Jupiter's just usually something big and just going off into space itself, the quest. Jupiter's something big and foreign, that's Chewbacca. You know, you got Pluto would be Darth Vader. So wherever Pluto is in your chart, that's your own inner Darth Vader. I always tell people, Pluto in your 4th house, you open up the basement doors, going down to the steps, and there's Darth Vader down there, his lightsaber. So you got to face the shadow in the basement, in your own emotions, in your own.
I dream about ghosts in the basement all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so you got to trust that. When I did Christina's chart, the first day we met, I said, "Wow, you got Pluto in your nadir. must be some intense psychology in your home life, or what's going on. It turns out both of her parents are Scorpio rising. One has Saturn on the ascendant, one has Jupiter. They're like polarizations of Scorpio rising. And then it turns out she has grandparents that have wealth back in the day. So 4th house is your ancestors. And Pluto down there means wealth. And the way they got money, California, was they grew mushrooms, like mushroom farms, edible mushrooms. And so Pluto governs the underworld where mushrooms grow. So she had Pluto in her 4th house showing the mushroom farmers, the psychological parents, everything. And as the more I get to know her and the more I meet her family, I'm like, wow, that Pluto there in the 4th.
Wow.
So, like me, I have Pluto up here in my 9th house, which is the house of religion. I've been burnt at the stake many times for my outspoken beliefs, And so, there's always a journey with Pluto, 3 stages. One is to release and let go, and like in my 9th house, it's about religion. So I had to let go of the religion I was born into, the Southern Baptist Christian Church. I had to say, screw that, I'm not gonna, you guys drive me nuts. And then I had to not, the second stage is, once you can get away from it and see it for what it is, then to not go toward another fanaticism, Second stage is tricky, because I could have been like, oh, I'm going to go all out Buddhist now, And then come back to the other with new eyes and integrate, and then just, the main thing is just, because the 9th house governs journeys, I had to get away from I had to go journeying away from Boulder. I love Boulder, it's my favorite city. As soon as I left Boulder, that's when my great transformations started happening, because I went far away, 9th house. So whatever the house Pluto's in, that house has keys to your great transformation. Like her, who was buying a home, settling down. And now Pluto's opposing her sun and squaring her moon, and she's going through a rebirth. See? If you buy a home and settle down, Pluto's in your 4th house of home.
Really?
You're going to die and be reborn. Out of the ashes, yeah. And then you're going to wake up one day and go, I'm a therapist. You know what I mean? It's like, I got power, because Pluto's about power. That's what ultimately Pluto's about, claiming your power.
What about Pluto in your 8th house?
It's that sexual energy again. It's about trusting. It's about learning trust.
Get on it.
And get on it. It's about learning trust, because the 8th house is about other people's resources, other people's bodies, other people's money. And so when it's like, wow, it's about investment. So if you invest in mushroom farms, you're doing good. You're like, hey, I made an investment. It had to do with Pluto, or I made an investment in psychology, or it's a natural, because the 8th house governs psychology, theology of the soul, and therapy. And so when Pluto's in there, it's like, wow, you have a gift of going down into the depths like a shaman. You can touch someone, and you can take their pain away from them, and then you can transform it back into pure light energy if you learn how to do it. You gotta get in the bathtub, light a candle, let it go at the end of the day. You're like a living transformer. So pretty intense. Pluto in its own house.
So would you say Pluto's your biggest challenge in life?
If you want galactic consciousness, yes.
So whatever house that's in would be...
Yeah, because that's the last step before we go out into the galactic. And what I mean by galactic consciousness, Dane Rudar wrote about it a lot in this book, about really feeling like you're a citizen of a galaxy, not just a solar system. Most people don't even have that on this planet. But most people just wake up, go to work, eat, go watch TV, go to sleep. But if you have that consciousness of like, wow, I live in this solar, I'm a citizen of this planetary happening solar system, right? And then when you go past Pluto, that's when you're floating amongst nebulas and stars and black holes and all that. That consciousness is a whole different level. Stars are beings. Most stars are binary stars. In other words, 2 stars together, circling each other, having fun, making little planetary systems. So consciousness pervades the universe. And if you can work at that level of consciousness, the Pluto level, if you're ready for that level, and then you can act as a bridge between these 2 levels, that's when the magic starts to happen, You just walk down the street and you're like Neo, Ting, ting, ting.
So what would that look like in your chart?
So 12th house. What? 12th house.
Well, wherever Pluto is, I'm just saying, like, that house has the key to your ultimate surrender and transformation and your true power. It's not about ego, dark power, like Darth Vader did. It's about true empowerment through surrender. You're not forcing nothing. The universe is just, you open, you're just a lens. The force is flowing through. So it's about attaining that level of consciousness where the universal force that creates life can flow through you as a lens. And you're not trying to control it or nitpick it. You're just like, And that's what happens when you do an astrology chart, because you have.
Or energy healing.
Yeah, or energy healing. Something opens within you.
So
I always say I talk for 10 minutes and then the universe takes over.
Is it more intense in the 12th house because the 12th house is about surrender?
Yeah, it is, because the 12th house is about that total surrender and alignment with God. And so people that have Pluto in the 12th are sort of like saints, not in a religious sense, but in the sense of like they've seen a lot of darkness in their immediate past life, a lot of suffering. And so they come in this life going like, wow, I just have compassion. I don't want to see people suffer like that anymore. So they just feel like, I want to help people on some deep spiritual level, because it's the 12th house. And so if you open that level, your power will come from the 12th house, from the divine, right from the source. It's like, whoa! So that, ultimately that would be like the ultimate, transforming through the power of the divine. Jesus had something like that going on. Well, he had his moon in Gemini in the 12th, square to Pluto in the 3rd. So he could speak the word, 3rd, moon in Gemini, and just transform people's shadow sides into light. And they were like, whoa, I'm healed, what happened? So
yeah, I read somewhere that he will enact the shadow side of the collective unconscious, or people tend to become the serial killer or whatever.
Yeah, that's the dark side, the Darth Vader. So you don't want that part of Pluto. You want the good. You want the good stuff is first there. So wait, any questions? Okay, study planets. That sheet, the sheet that has all the planets? That one right there?
The red border one?
Yeah, just the red border sheet. That's the sheet. Just try to learn all the planets and houses, review houses, and just try to put each of your planets in your chart. Look what house it's in. And then write one of those expressions like the sun's there is to shine, and then write what house it's in. You want to shine in this field of light. And the next week we're going to have the signs, and have the next layer, because the signs is when the zodiac comes in. That's the Mazaroth. The word Mazeltov, which means good fortune, actually means may the zodiac be with you. Because 12 signs of zodiac is Mazaroth, so next week is zodiac. Yeah, study the heck out of this sheet, because if you really understand this sheet to the core, that right there, man, this sheet right here is like the heart of astrology. If you can feel this sheet, not just intellectually.
It's just like herbal energetics.
Yeah.
Any kind of healing path has similar constitutional
Totally.
assessment.
Totally.
I can bring it. I just took an alchemy class at Sierra School.
Sierra School? Cool.
And he gave us all the planets, the herbs to go
Oh,
with the
really?
planets
Oh, that's
to
cool.
integrate the energy of the planets into your system.
Yeah, there's some good books about that too. Donna Cunningham wrote some books about flower essences in astrology. Like if somebody has a Neptune transit, they give them this essence. If they have this transit, they need that essence, and it's like really cool.
What's her name?
Donna Cunningham.
Salt pepper.
Yeah, so there's a lot of resources. Just go on the web and put in flower essences or herbal astrology or plants and astrology, and you'll find a lot of stuff.
Alchemy and herbalism.
Mm-hmm. Lee Lehman, who's our PhD lady in town, who's dean of Kepler College, first astrology university in the West. Her PhD was in botany, and her first book was all about the ancient classifications of all the plants. She's got an amazing book. So that's life.
Wow. Thanks, Connie.
Thank you.